Chapter 27. From this moment forward, Shimura Danzo will no longer be the Hokage's assistant. Danzo Shimura recalled yesterday. After he left the Hokage's office, he began to scheme how to make Rinso his person. In order not to alarm Hiruzen Sarutobi, he didn't even dare to dispatch his most capable subordinates. It was at this time that the Hyuga clan branch family ninja received a heavy punishment. He took the opportunity to send people to brainwash him and bring him under his command. And he directly ordered him to abduct Rinso. Even if an accident occurred midway, the exposed face would only point the finger at the Hyuga clan. However, what he never expected was this. Amir Chunin, facing Rinso, a 4-year-old child, not only failed to abduct him, but couldn't even defeat him. Ultimately, it implicated him. At this moment, Rinso's narration also came to an end. In his account, his battle with that ninja was described as extremely thrilling. If he hadn't learned ninjutsu from Shursui and caught the opponent off guard, severely injuring him and turning the tide of battle, he would have been defeated without a doubt. So, in the end, Rinso very seriously thanked Shursui, even though he hadn't actually used any ninjutsu. Shursui-sen, thank you. Uchiha Shursui didn't dare to accept this gratitude and turn his head away in shame. In his opinion, if it weren't for his carelessness, none of this would have happened. That a major disaster was averted was due to Rinso's own excellence. How could he have the face to accept the thanks? Danzo, do you have anything else to say? Hiruzen Sarutobi asked with a cold face. Danzo Shimura, like a dead duck that fears no boiling water, remained stubborn. Is whatever a little brat says true? This person is not my root ninja at all. Those white eyes clearly belong to a Hyuga clan ninja. This old man suggests that the Hyuga clan should be severely punished. Danzo Shimura not only refused to admit it, but also tried to shift the blame. Hyuga Hayashi's body trembled with anger upon hearing this. Danzo Shimura, you not only brainwashed my Hyuga ninja into a root ninja, but you also try to smear the Hyuga clan. Do you think my Hyuga clan has no one to stand up for itself? As he spoke, Hyuga Hayashi's chakra erupted. The terrifying aura of a Kaga-level expert made everyone present change their expressions. Danzo Shimura showed no fear, likewise releasing his chakra, confronting Hyuga Hayashi head-on. Hiruzen Sarutobi frowned and slammed the table. Enough. What do you think this place is? Oomph. Danzo Shimura snorted coldly and withdrew his chakra. Hyuga Hayashi maintained it for a moment, then gritted his teeth and also withdrew his. Then, he looked at the ANBU ninja in the room and commanded, "Turn over his tongue." The ANBU ninja looked at Hiruzen Sarutobi, and after receiving Hiruzen Sarutobi's nod, walked to the corpse and directly pulled open its tongue. The tongue curse seal was thus starkly revealed before everyone's eyes. This is a unique curse seal of the root. It seems it is indeed a root ninja. Did even the Hyuga clan not escape Root's clutches? Aburame Shibi's expression was grim. Danzo had been subtly, and not so subtly, trying to make their Aburame clan hand over a highly talented child to join the Root organization. He had been stalling. But now, seeing Danzo Shimura so audacious, how much longer could he stall? His Aburame clan was not a top-tier family. So how could they defy Danzo Shimura, the Hokage's assistant? Danzo Shimura looked at the familiar curse seal. His expression changed drastically. Then he said, "Who put my Root's curse seal on his tongue? This is slander. You admit this is your Root's curse seal." Hiruzen Sarutobi roared. Danzo Shimura's face was gloomy, and he said nothing more. He understood that any further sophistry was useless now, so he accepted it. At most, he would receive some punishment, and he would act more cautiously in the future. Nothing to say? Hiruzen Sarutobi snorted coldly, then announced, "I, in the name of the Hokage, dismissed Danzo Shimura from his position as Hokage's assistant. Those in favor, raise your hands." As soon as Hiruzen Sarutobi's words fell, Danzo Shimura immediately couldn't sit still. He never imagined that Hiruzen Sarutobi would actually want to dismiss him from his position as Hokage's assistant. How was this any different from directly uprooting him? Without the assistant position, Root would no longer be legitimate, and he wouldn't be able to force those families to hand over their clan's geniuses. Without the assistant position, his influence would be greatly diminished, and he wouldn't be able to sway many matters, virtually losing all his say. This was absolutely unacceptable to him. Hiruzen, do you know what you're saying? You can't do this. You don't have the authority to dismiss me. Danzo Shimura's expression was frantic as he shrieked. You don't have this authority. Hiruzen Sarutobi looked coldly at Danzo Shimura, his heart filled with sorrow. His old friend had long forgotten his original intention. He used to think that all the things Danzo did, at least, had Konoha's best interests at heart. But now, it was clear that it was all for himself. Perhaps, By making Danzo lose his assistant position and his power, he could prevent him from spiraling further into the abyss. Hiruzen Sarutobi cut off these distracting thoughts and calmly said, I cannot directly dismiss you from your assistant position, so I have convened a Jonin meeting. Everyone, make your own decision. The Hokage's office fell silent, everyone contemplating the pros and cons. Of course, Hyuga Hayashi was the first to raise his hand without hesitation. His raised hand carried immense weight. After all, the Hyuga clan had a double-digit number of Jonin, and these votes were all included in his single raised hand. After Hyuga Hayashi, the clan heads of Ino, Shika, Cho, Aburame, the four great families, all raised their hands. These were another four incredibly weighty votes, each representing not just themselves, but the families behind them, several Jonin. As for Kakashi and Might Guy, they had raised their hands the first time Hiruzen Sarutobi spoke and had not lowered them. Just like that, slowly, most people made their choice. What was surprising, yet very reasonable, was that this vote was not a unanimous show of hands. Danzo Shimura had been rooted in Konoha for many years, involving the interests of an unknown number of people, and many were unwilling for him to step down. Most of these people were representatives of the smaller families. Until the very end, everyone's gaze was focused on the Uchiha clan, who had not yet voted. They were somewhat of an anomaly, because other families only had one representative. But the Uchiha had three people. Uchiha Shursui, the Konoha faction. Uchiha Fugaku, the conservative faction. Uchiha Hamura, the radical faction. Their attitudes differed. Uchiha Fugaku lowered his head, weighing his options, hesitating whether to raise his hand. He wondered if giving Danzo face now might make things easier for the Uchiha in the future. Uchiha Hamura did not raise his hand, seemingly annoyed by Danzo and Hiruzen Sarutobi's infighting. Among the three, Shursui raised his hand without hesitation. After a few seconds of thought, Uchiha Fugaku glanced at Rinso and suddenly remembered Rinso's final words of thanks to Shursui. At the same time, he also recalled Rinso's relationship with Senjimiho. And upon closer reflection, Danzo had done such things many times before, so why was it causing such a big stir this time? Hiruzen Sarutobi's attitude spoke volumes. Thinking this, Uchiha Fugaku asked Shursui, Shursui, what do you think of this Mariki Lin Sheng? Shursui, being extremely intelligent, instantly thought of many things and directly said, he is highly valued by Hokage-sama, and he is Sasuke's friend. A glint flashed in Uchiha Fugaku's eyes, and without further hesitation, he raised his hand. At this point, everyone who could vote had made their choice. Of the three Uchiha, two raised their hands, representing that the Uchiha's massive vote, which could change the outcome, stood on the side supporting Danzo's dismissal. Hiruzen Sarutobi gave Shursui an approving look, then announced, the supporters are in the majority. Effective immediately, Danzo Shimura is no longer the Hokage's assistant. Chapter 28, The Butterfly Effect brought about by Lin Sheng. Danzo Shimura slumped in his chair as if his soul had left him, his eyes vacant. For power, he had toiled for countless years, pouring in immeasurable effort. Now, not only had he failed to advance and become Hokage, but he couldn't even retain his position as Hokage's assistant. Suddenly, he stood up abruptly, looking at Yuditane Koharu and Hamura Midokado with agitation. Koharu, Hamura, are you really going to watch me be dismissed? Danzo Shimura shook their shoulders as if grasping at a lifeline. As absolute high-ranking officials of Konoha, elders second only to the Hokage and himself as Hokage's assistant. If Yuditane Koharu and Hamura Midokado strongly objected, then everything still had a chance. Yuditane Koharu and Hamura Midokado exchanged glances, their eyes hesitant. They felt that what Danzo did was wrong, but the mistake he made wasn't so severe as to warrant direct dismissal from the Hokage's assistant position. Especially since Danzo had been their close friend from childhood to old age. Seeing him so distraught, they couldn't help but feel a sense of shared sorrow. Hiruzen, Danzo has contributed so many years to Konoha. Even if he hasn't achieved great merits, he has certainly put in hard work. Isn't directly dismissing him from his assistant position a bit too harsh a punishment? That's right, Hiruzen, this matter only involved a branch family ninja of the Hyuga and ordinary child. It's not enough to directly dismiss Danzo from his assistant position, is it? Yuditane Koharu and Hamura Midokado spoke one after another, subtly reclassifying Danzo's mistake as a minor issue. Hiruzen Sarutobi looked at his two old friends with disappointment. Then more anger surged in his heart. An ordinary child? That is the future of the village. Without these children, when you and I are no longer able to fight in the future, who will protect the village? Koharu, Hamura, you have disappointed me greatly. Hiruzen Sarutobi scanned everyone, then solemnly declared, "From now on, anyone who dares to lay a hand on Mariki Linsheng will be treated as a traitor to the village." This, almost everyone gasped, not expecting Hiruzen Sarutobi to say such a thing. They looked at Mariki Linsheng, now truly feeling that Hiruzen Sarutobi seemed overly concerned about this child. They all made up their minds to thoroughly investigate Mariki Linsheng's background after returning home. Danzo Shimura stood up, his eyes incredibly sinister. "Hiruzen, you will regret this." Hiruzen Sarutobi's imposing aura did not yield an inch. "Danzo, you're not even the Hokage's assistant anymore." Danzo Shimura's face flushed red, almost spitting blood. He said no more, slamming the door shut as he left with a bang. Thus, everything settled. Danzo Shimura was no longer the Hokage's assistant, second only to one person. 1 week later, Konoha Training Ground. Rinso quickly formed hand signs, and a shadow clone identical to him appeared beside him. In front, Kakashi and Shursui exchanged glances, both reading the same thought in the other's eyes. Rinso is simply a genius among geniuses. Rinso had only seen them both use the B-rank difficulty shadow clone jutsu once each, and after trying it 2 or 3 times himself, he had successfully mastered it. This speed was incredibly astonishing. Kakashi and Shursui didn't know that Rinso's claiming to have learned it after 2 or 3 tries was just an act. After all, he couldn't very well say that he had already picked up this ninjutsu from Naruto, could he? Alright, that's enough ninjutsu training for now. Let's take a break and then practice swordsmanship, Kakashi said. Okay, Rinso nodded and walked towards a nearby resting chair. After sitting down to rest, Rinso's gaze swept across the entire training ground, his mood indescribably strange. In the training ground, Tenten, Hinata, and Sakura, the 3 girls, were being instructed by a beautiful, curvaceous female ninja. That was Kakashi and Might Guy's friend, and one of the 4 future Jonin squad leaders of the 12 Konoha Genin, a Jonin specializing in Jinjutsu, Kurenai Yuhi. On the other side, Lee, Naruto, and Sasuke were all undergoing physical training with Might Guy. The last of the 4 future Jonin squad leaders was, of course, not absent. The 3rd Hokage's son, Konoha's most mature man, Asuma Sarutobi. Coincidentally, he was currently training Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino, a truly fated encounter. Unknowingly, have I formed so many bonds already? Rinso's eyes held a complex expression. Since Danzo Shimura was dismissed from his position as Hokage's assistant a week ago, he had not let down his guard. As the saying goes, a starved camel is still bigger than a horse. Even without the title of Hokage's assistant and the legitimacy to control Root. But Rinso did not believe that Danzo would hand over his forces. Furthermore, Danzo himself was a powerful individual with Kage-level strength. Rinso couldn't guarantee that Danzo wouldn't do something to him out of anger in the future. Therefore, after that, aside from a brief, happy playtime with Tenten and others that afternoon, he resumed his training the next day, learning Jinjutsu with Shursui, swordsmanship with Kakashi, ninjutsu with both of them, and taijutsu with Might Guy. Throughout the day, except for his usual midday visit to Senjimiho for a chat, he spent most of his time training. Afterward, perhaps his active attitude motivated Tenten and the others. Thus, Tenten and the others also spontaneously began training. Kakashi, Might Guy, and Shursui. They were not stingy people. If Tenten and the others were willing to train together, they were willing to teach them all. But there were too many people, and they felt a bit overwhelmed. So, Kurenai Yuhi and Asuma Sarutobi were also called in to act as helpers, sharing the burden. It could be said that, under Rinso's butterfly effect, 9 of the future Konoha 12 Genin had formed early friendships, and the 4 squad-leading Jonin had also experienced the feeling of teaching students ahead of time. It could be said that everyone had gained something. Of course, his gains were the greatest. After all, with his system, the more people there were, the higher the drop rate, and the more things he could pick up. With so many people, each with their unique talents and abilities, Rinso felt it would take several years to exhaust them all. In this past week, he had only picked up 5 drops. Asuma Sarutobi's dropped wind released chakra. After picking it up, Rinso felt a sense of replenishment in his body, unlike when he fused with Kakashi's dropped lightning release chakra, where he felt nothing. He guessed it was because he previously had no wind release chakra in his body. Kurenai Yuhi's Jinjutsu talent. This beautiful Jonin, who received a perfect score in Jinjutsu in the official databooks, possessed Jinjutsu talent that was absolutely top tier among geniuses. If not for the existence of a bug like the Sharingan, Kurenai Yuhi would definitely have the potential to reach the pinnacle of Jinjutsu. After fusing with her Jinjutsu talent, Rinso could clearly feel that his speed in learning Jinjutsu had increased significantly. Later, when learning Jinjutsu, the comparison in time even gave Shursui the illusion that the learning difficulty of the demonic illusion Hell viewing technique might have been marked too low. Besides Asuma and Kurenai Yui's drops, the other 3 drops came from Tintin, Hinata, and Naruto, respectively. Tintin's drop was a talent in space-time ninjutsu. In the original work, Tintin was very proficient with summoning tools, indicating her considerable space-time talent. After fusing it, Rinso clearly felt that the world, or rather, he himself, had undergone a subtle change. This change was indescribable, like a person gaining an additional color perception in their eyes. The world hadn't changed, but everything they could see was different from before. Acquiring space-time talent sparked some ideas in Rinso's mind. Could he try to learn the Flying Thunder God technique? Of course, such a forbidden jutsu couldn't just be learned on a whim. If one's contributions weren't enough, and their background wasn't clean enough, then they shouldn't even think about it. Therefore, Rinso could only put this matter aside. Next, Hyuga Hinata dropped the Byakugan. Since he had previously picked up Hinata's Hyuga Bloodline and awakened the Byakugan, Rinso was very curious what changes would occur when 2 Byakugan fused. The result was, after fusion, the function remained unchanged, but the chakra consumption decreased. Finally, there was Naruto's drop, which, for Rinso, was something he couldn't immediately tell if it was a mere trifle or a grand prize. This was because Naruto dropped Azura chakra. This chakra, representing the will of Azura, didn't seem to inherently have the effect of increasing strength. Unlike Indra chakra, in the original work, there were fleeting mentions. The evolution of the Mangekyo Sharingan into the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Historically, not many people had successfully evolved it. So Rinso speculated that the evolution of the Mangekyo Sharingan to the eternal Mangekyo might require the participation of Indra chakra, and only those who were Indra's reincarnations could evolve the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. So, brothers exchanging eyes and both evolving the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan won't work? Rinso smiled, not paying it much mind. Anyway, as long as they slowly interacted, whether it was Indra chakra, the Mangekyo Sharingan, or even directly picking up the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, it wasn't impossible. Hokage's office. Hiruzen Sarutobi observed the Konoha training ground through the crystal ball using the telescope jutsu. Watching a group of little sprouts training together under Rinso's leadership, he couldn't help but smile. Especially when he saw his own son and the usually aloof Kakashi diligently teaching Rinso and the others, his smile grew even wider. Little Rinso, with you as the knot, a vast web of bonds has already been woven. Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed. Thump, thump, thump. A knock sounded, and Hiruzen Sarutobi said, "Enter," then saw Senjumiho push the door open and walk in, her expression very serious. Subconsciously, Hiruzen Sarutobi's expression also became serious, and he asked, "What happened, Senior Miho?" Senjumiho said nothing, directly produced a document, and placed it on the table in front of Hiruzen Sarutobi. Hiruzen Sarutobi picked it up and read it. It recorded Rinso's family relationships. Father Mariki Geniki, mother Hanako Oda, who took her husband's surname Mariki after marriage. The two were in a fruit store, and business was good. Up to this point, everything was very normal. Until Hiruzen Sarutobi looked further down. Mariki Shigeru, Mariki Lin Shun's grandfather, formerly known as Senju Shigeru. Chapter 29? They're starting with something so sensitive. Senju. Hiruzen Sarutobi's eyes widened as he realized something. So, Rinso-kun. Senjumiho nodded, her eyes filled with reminiscence. Such injuries, recovering completely in less than a day, this terrifying recovery speed, I've only ever seen it on the first Hokage. Comparable to the first Hokage, Rinso-kun, he truly keeps surprising this old man. Hiruzen Sarutobi's eyes gleamed. Then he seemed to recall something and immediately summoned an Umbu. An Umbu appeared, kneeling on one knee before Hiruzen Sarutobi, awaiting orders. Hiruzen Sarutobi's expression was stern as he immediately ordered. Arrange for 3 Jonin-level Umbu to continuously monitor Danzo, Shimura, 24 hours a day. Absolutely do not let him make any moves that threaten Mariki Lin Shung, understood? If he has any objections, tell him to come find this old man. The Umbu nodded and responded, "Yes, Hokage-sama." After the Umbu left, Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed. As a close friend, I didn't want to impose such restrictions, sigh. Senjumiho snorted coldly. Humph. Your current restrictions on him are saving him. Otherwise, once he truly makes a grave mistake, it will be too late. Hiruzen Sarutobi didn't retort, quietly smoking his pipe. By the way, should we let Rinso-kun try learning Wood Release? With a similarly terrifying recovery ability, perhaps he can awaken Wood Release. Hiruzen Sarutobi suddenly spoke. Senjumiho glared fiercely at Hiruzen Sarutobi, displeased. Rinso-kun is only 4 years old. What's the rush? He's already tired enough learning so many things right now. Hiruzen Sarutobi immediately backed down. Then we'll talk about it when he's 6 and enters the Ninja Academy. Senju Miho didn't object further, nodded, and left the Hokage's office. After Senju Miho left, Hiruzen Sarutobi once again activated the telescope jutsu, observing the training ground through the crystal ball. In the image, Rinso was sparring in taijutsu with Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke was defeated and, facing Rinso's guidance, haughtily declared he didn't want to listen, but his body honestly followed suit. Watching this heartwarming scene, Hiruzen Sarutobi murmured to himself, "Rinso-kun, perhaps in the future, you will be able to resolve the conflict between the village and the Uchiha clan. All this old man can do is try my best to delay the outbreak of conflict." Night. After training, led by Rinso, everyone poured into the Ichiraku ramen shop. A large, boisterous group, they all entered the shop. Because there were too many people, not everyone could sit at the counter, and many had to sit at the dining tables. Rinso, in particular, sat at a 4-person dining table. As soon as he sat down, in less than 2 seconds, the other 3 seats were already filled. Hinata was the first, sitting to Rinso's left by the wall, her legs together and fidgeting. When Rinso looked at her, her face immediately turned red. Opposite, Tintin occupied the seat, her rosy cheeks beaming with a smile as she affectionately said to Rinso, "Rinso-kun, I can give you my side dishes later, you know." Rinso smiled, but dared not accept. After all, it could easily be the start of a dispute. Finally, Rinso looked at the seat next to Tintin, where Naruto was sitting. "Big brother Rinso, want to have a contest later to see who can eat the most?" Naruto asked with an innocent smile, completely oblivious to Ino clenching her teeth with a hateful expression nearby. That annoying Naruto! Ino's face was full of anger. Suddenly, Ino remembered something and turned to look at another dining table. At that table, Uchiha Sasuke was seated first, and Sakura sat down next to him, feigning nonchalance, her eyes full of joy. Seeing this, Ino walked straight over and whispered a few words into Sakura's ear. Afterward, Sakura showed a somewhat troubled expression. Seeing this, Ino quickly pleaded, "Sakura, my dear friend, please." Sakura smiled helplessly. All right, I promise." Saying that, Sakura stood up and walked towards Naruto. "Naruto, don't sit here anymore. Come eat with me." Sakura. Naruto's eyes lit up. He only glanced at Rinso, hesitated for a moment, then immediately agreed. "Okay." Sakura smiled, showing a mission-accomplished expression, and turned to look for Ino. However, Ino was nowhere to be seen behind her. Looking again, Ino was already sitting in Naruto's original seat, diagonally opposite Rinso. "Rinso, did you bring enough money? If not, tell me. I'll treat you," Ino said generously. Rinso glanced at Naruto, who had been easily lured away by Sakura, shook his head helplessly, then looked back and said with a smile, "Then I won't be polite. Thank you, big spender Ino." "What big spender? I'm not." Ino's face blushed shyly. Rinso continued to smile, but his ears caught the sound of someone else entering the shop. He turned to look, and the distinct tear troughs on the newcomer's face instantly revealed their identity. Uchiha Itachi. Most likely, he had finished a mission and came to find Sasuke. As soon as he arrived, he sat directly next to Sasuke, also directly opposite Uchiha Shursui. Seeing this, Sakura felt her world collapse. Her seat was gone. Helplessly, she had to settle for sitting opposite Sasuke, no longer caring about her promise to eat at the same table as Naruto. Naruto was at a loss, his face embarrassed. He wanted to sit back in his original seat, but found it already occupied by Ino. Immediately, a feeling of being abandoned welled up. Fortunately, there was still one empty seat at the table with Shikamaru, Choji, and Lee, so Naruto wasn't left out. Soon, after Tuchiyasen's full effort and preparation, bowls of fragrant ramen were served. The waitress was Tuchi's daughter, Ayam, a very delicate and beautiful girl, about 10 years old. Rinso had no particular thoughts about her. After all, she didn't possess any special bloodline or talent, and he simply didn't have the energy to form connections. However, perhaps it was because Rinso was too cute. Even at a young age, he already had a handsome appearance that foretold his future good looks, making him a perfect top-tier Shota. So, after the ramen was served, Rinso received preferential treatment. "I added half an egg for free. Enjoy your meal," Ayam said with a gentle smile. Then, she was met with the collective gaze of the 3 girls at the table. Ayam felt a wave of discomfort and quickly left, muttering softly, "3 girlfriends? Kids these days are amazing." Hinata let out a cute whimper, lowering her head as wisps of white steam rose from her head. "What girlfriends? That's just nonsense." Ino fanned herself with her hand, muttering, "Phew, it's so hot. My face is burning." Tintin looked at Rinso, a smile blooming. It seems Rinso-kun and I are a good match. Rinso looked at the three girls and rubbed his temples. He had a feeling that when they all grew up, he would be in a lot of trouble. After dinner, everyone went home. At the shop entrance, Rinso, who was on good terms with everyone, said goodbye one by one. See you tomorrow. Everyone waved goodbye to Rinso as well. Afterward, everyone walked home along the shortest route. Since Rinso's house and the Uchiha clan compound were both located on the outskirts of the village, Rinso, Shursui, Itachi, and Sasuke walked together on the same path. Sasuke was on Itachi's back, deep in a sweet dream. Rinso, Shursui, and Itachi walked side by side, Shursui and Itachi conversing in low voices. Rinso didn't try to listen to what they were talking about. He wasn't that bored, nor did he have the curiosity to pry into others' privacy. But circumstances are unpredictable. Rinso didn't want to know, but Shursui and Itachi very much wanted him to know. After chatting for a while, the two suddenly stopped and both looked at Rinso. Itachi spoke first. Rinso-san, what are your thoughts on the relationship between the village and the Uchiha? Rinso, are we getting into such sensitive topics? Right off the bat. Chapter 30 Uchiha, Shursui's Fall, Manjikyu Sharingan. Shursui and Itachi looked at Rinso, their eyes filled with some expectation. They wanted to know, from Rinso, a person who was extremely popular and got along with most people, where the real conflict between the village and the Uchiha clan lay. Although both of them were very intelligent, due to their identities, they were often too close to the situation to see clearly. Therefore, they hoped to gain some insight from Rinso. Under the expectant gaze of the two, Rinso sighed slightly and decided to offer his insights. After all, Shursui-san was very good to him, and Sasuke was willing to take his side if something happened to him. Since they were so righteous, Rinso, couldn't be too remiss. To ease the conflict between the village and the Uchiha, you actually only need to do two things, Rinso said, holding up a finger. Only two things. Rinso's words immediately surprised Shursui and Itachi. They had only intended to use Rinso to open up some new ideas, but it seemed it was more than that. The two exchanged glances, feeling that Rinso might be thinking too simply. However, they didn't intend to stop Rinso's speech. Even if Rinso's upcoming remarks might be naive, they were willing to listen. Rinso didn't know their thoughts. He simply spoke slowly according to his own understanding. First, the military police force. The military police force? Uchiha Shursui asked in confusion, then said with some realization, is it because the military police force members are not good to the villagers? Do we need to change that? Rinso looked at Shursui-san with a you're an idiot look, shaking his head. Shursui-san, you should understand, the so-called attitude of the villagers is completely useless to the Uchiha. Shursui-san looked embarrassed, while Itachi narrowed his eyes, thinking of something. What I mean by the military police force is that the Uchiha clan controls the military police force, and their power is too great. The military police force can meddle in all matters, big and small, among the villagers. They practically control the entire grassroots of Konoha, and their power is boundless. How could Hokage-sama and the two elders of the council tolerate that? So they will definitely continue to weaken the military police force. As soon as Rinso said this, Shursui's mind was struck as if by lightning, and he suddenly understood some things. For example, during the Nine-Tails attack, the Uchiha military police force was directly driven out of the village center. They said it was because the Nine-Tailed was controlled by the Uchiha Sharingan, so they were wary of the Uchiha. But who didn't know that the Uchiha clan couldn't possibly do something so self-destructive? So, the person who controlled the Nine-Tailed was most likely not anyone from the Uchiha clan at all. Therefore, the Konoha higher-ups directly used this excuse to logically weaken the military police force. After Uchiha Shursui understood this, his gaze towards Rinso changed. He realized that although he usually claimed to view events from the Hokage's perspective, it seemed he wasn't that smart. On the contrary, Rinso, at such a young age, could realize these things. His political thinking was too strong. Shursui-san didn't know that Rinso's small body contained various thought processes developed on Earth in his previous life. In the era of information explosion on Earth, the political thinking passively enhanced by just watching some political videos was already enough for Rinso to surpass everyone in Konoha Village. After all, they were a group of ninja who relied on force. It was good if a few of them had decent intelligence. True political masters would certainly be active in the power centers of the Land of Fire, not in a military organization like Konoha Village. So how do we solve it? Should we give up the military police force? The military police force is one of the few powers within the clan, and not many people in the clan would be willing to give it up, Shursui-san asked again. Rinso began to doubt whether Shursui-san was a smart person. He had explained the problem so clearly, yet he still asked him for a solution. Sigh. Rinso sighed, and simply stated a solution. The power of the normal military police force is too great, so you must decentralize power, making the military police force transform from the Uchiha military police force into a true Konoha military police force. Whether it's allowing civilian ninja to participate or distributing power to other clans, either is fine. That way, although the Uchiha clan's influence might seem to diminish, once you truly decentralize power, Konoha will definitely restore the military police force's status to its original position and restore its true power. Even if the Uchiha clan share power is not complete, it will still be better than now. Moreover, the various positions and powers within the military police force can be traded with other clans. Exchanging for shops, exchanging for land. I don't need to say more about this, do I? A community of interest will naturally bring the Uchiha clan closer to everyone in the village. According to what I've said, if the Uchiha clan no longer controls the military police force, the Konoha higher-ups naturally won't suppress the Uchiha clan too much. As Rinso finished speaking, Shirsu-san felt that the problems that had troubled him for so long seemed insignificant, and he couldn't help but admire Rinso from the bottom of his heart. Are you really a 4-year-old child? Uchiha Itachi was also somewhat shocked. He hadn't actually thought that much. And Rinso, even though it was something completely unrelated to him, now seemed to understand the village and the Uchiha clan so clearly just through various pieces of information. The first point is done. What's the second point? Shirsue-san asked impatiently. Rinso didn't keep them in suspense and said concisely. The second point is that Shirsue-san and Itachi need to become mediocre. For example, Shirsue-san, you could completely stage a play, causing yourself to go blind due to overuse of your eyes, greatly reducing your combat power. And Itachi, slow down your promotion speed, act a bit foolish. If you two become mediocre, the radical faction within the Uchiha clan will naturally lose confidence. If the clan's combat power is insufficient, and after the first point is completed, the village will certainly not target the Uchiha clan too much, then the radical faction will naturally become weaker, and once the radical faction is weaker, the situation will stabilize. Shirsue and Itachi both nodded, their eyes full of sudden realization. They looked at Rinso with immense admiration. Compared to Rinso, what were their so-called Hokage-level thoughts? They were simply naive children who hadn't grown up. Rinso, thank you. Shirsue squatted down, held Rinso's hand, and thanked him with great solemnity. Rinso smiled. I just hope the village and the Uchiha clan don't clash. Everyone is a partner in the same village, and internal strife is too shameful, isn't it? Shirsue laughed and said nothing more. He now had only one thought. If Rinso isn't Hokage in the future, he'll be the first to disagree. Uchiha Itachi suddenly spoke. Can we tell my father these words and tell him that you said them? Shirsue-san also realized something, and after some hesitation, said, Can I tell Hokage-sama? If not, I will respect your opinion. Rinso. Rinso smiled indifferently. It's fine, say what you want. Just tell me Hokage-sama's expression afterward. He must be very shocked by my intelligence. Rinso's words were truthful. He genuinely didn't care. After all, his words only showed that he possessed Hokage-level thinking and was a talent. They wouldn't expose anything about him. What he usually showed was not that of an ordinary child. Now, he was just deepening this persona externally. Rinso, I really don't know how to thank you enough. Shirsue smiled gently and said sincerely. Rinso looked at him and said a strange sentence. It's okay, Shirsue has already given me a thank you gift. He lowered his head, looked at the popped-up system message, and a smile played on his lips. Uchiha Shirsue dropped. Mangekyo Sharingan, pick up yes/Noah. Chapter 31, The Change Security Force, Tenzo drops. Would release. Uchiha Territory, the clan head's residence. Uchiha Fugaku was kneeling on the tatama mat, facing Itachi, who had a very serious expression. Itachi said, Father, this is the method Rinso suggested, and I think it's very sound. His mouth was slightly agape, his eyes unable to hide his shock. Just a short while ago, Uchiha Itachi had returned with Sasuke. As soon as he came back, he asked to speak with him privately about the village and the clan. He hadn't taken it seriously at first, as even if his son was precocious, it would be difficult for him to correctly assess matters he hadn't experienced. However, his son, with one suggestion, spoke of relinquishing the military police force's power in exchange for benefits. Then, with another suggestion, he spoke of concealing their strength, urging the radical faction within the clan to abandon some unrealistic ideas. It could be said that these two methods were perfectly on point. They also aligned very well with his own thoughts. He hadn't told anyone about his Mangekyo Sharingan precisely because he didn't want the radical faction within the clan to develop improper ambitions. However, he could only think to that extent. His concealment of strength might be useful in the short term. But as long as Konoha and the Uchiha continued to have conflicts, The suppressed Uchiha would definitely reach a breaking point one day. And the first of the two methods Itachi proposed solved this very issue. By decentralizing power, they could actually gain greater power and influence. How had he not thought of that? Itachi, I never thought you could come up with such an excellent plan. If we follow your suggestions, even if the problem isn't completely resolved, it will certainly eliminate many conflicts. Itachi, you truly are a genius. Uchiha Fugaku's eyes were full of admiration, and he praised him repeatedly. Facing his father's praise, Itachi shook his head, not shamelessly claiming the credit. These two methods weren't my ideas, but rather, then, Itachi directly recounted what had happened a short while ago, explaining that Rinso had told him all of it. Rinso? The child who defeated Sasuke and Hyuga, and who Danzo had been watching recently. Uchiha Fugaku's voice was filled with disbelief. He's only 4 years old, isn't he? Uchiha Itachi showed a look of shame. Yes, he's only 4, but he sees things more clearly than even father and I. Uchiha Fugaku nodded in agreement, saying, no wonder Hiruzen values him so much. He glanced at the sleeping room, as if seeing the sleeping Sasuke through the wall. He couldn't help but murmur, perhaps, in the future, the conflicts between the village and the Uchiha will completely disappear in your generation. Time slowly passed. Since that day, he explained his methods to Sure and Itachi. Rinso noticed that not long after, the entire military police force underwent changes. The military police force, in teams of 3, patrolled Konoha. Originally, they were all Uchiha ninja. But now, ninja from major clans like the Yamanaka clan, Sarutobi clan, and others appeared. And some shops in the commercial district had quietly changed owners. All of this happened silently. If Rinso hadn't been intentionally observing, it would have been difficult to notice. To ordinary villagers, it seemed only that the military police force's attitude had improved, and more ninja, without Sharingan, were participating in law enforcement. Early morning, commercial district. Rinso left the fruit store with some fruits to replenish sugar and water after training and headed to the training ground. His gaze swept across the commercial district, and a team of 3 wearing military police force uniforms appeared in Rinso's sight. From their physiques, one of the 3 was most likely an Akimichi clan ninja. Another, wearing sunglasses, was suspected to be an Aburame clan ninja. Finally, there was the somewhat arrogant Uchiha ninja. The 3 were not patrolling at the moment, but were apprehending a thief, putting handcuffs on him. The military police force works so fast now, and their attitude is much better than before. It's really great. Yes, especially that proud young man who holds his head high. He may not be polite, but he's the most efficient, catching the thief in an instant. Yes, I don't think the Uchiha are so bad. They're just a group of interesting people. By the way, what's that called again? Tsundere, right? The surrounding chatter began. In the team of 3, the Uchiha ninja listened to the praises of the people around him, and a feeling he had never experienced before suddenly arose in his heart. As a hawk in the Uchiha clan, a few days ago, when a military police force was reformed, he had cursed Uchiha Fugaku for an entire day and night. But now looking at it, it doesn't seem so bad. Rinso stood from a distance, watching the event unfold, a slight smile on his lips, then continued towards the training ground. It seems his proposed method isn't bad after all. Not only did it bind the Uchiha with other Konoha clans, but also improved the military police force's attitude to some extent. One tsundere with 2 normal people is much more pleasant than 3 tsunderes together. So, does this count as killing 2 birds with 1 stone? He just wonders what methods a certain mysterious one-eyed man will use to drive the Uchiha to extinction without these conflicts. Training ground. When Rinso arrived with the fruits, Tintin and the others, along with Kakashi, had already arrived, and they had already started training. It's worth mentioning that, according to Sure and Kakashi, Hiruzen Sarutobi, in order to train him, specifically issued a mission, explicitly naming Sure and Kakashi to take it, allowing them to save on other missions and simply teach Rinso every day. Rinso, you're here. Good morning. Kakashi greeted him and then waved in a certain direction. Good morning, Kakashi-san. Rinso returned the greeting, then saw a somewhat familiar figure walk up next to Kakashi. Kakashi extended his hand and introduced, his name is Tenzo, a former Root ninja. Now that Danzo's assistant has been dismissed and Root disbanded, he is now free. Tenzo. Rinso's eyes lit up. Many people might not know this name, but if you mention his other name, it would definitely be incredibly familiar. Konoha's master builder, Yamato. He was the sole surviving experimental subject used by Orochimaru and Danzo to research Hashirama cell suppression and develop wood release. He is also one of the few ninja in the ninja world who can master wood release. Although limited by chakra volume and other factors, Yamato's wood release is much weaker than that of the first Hokage, Senja Hashirama, but what he possesses is indeed wood release. The most important thing is he can really drop would release. How is Rinso so sure? Mainly because Yamato is simply too generous. He hadn't even said a word, and things were already dropping. Tenzo dropped, would release, pick up y/. Rinso silently chose to pick up, then walked towards Yamato. Rinso's face was beaming with a sincere smile. Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you, Tenzo. A faint smile appeared on Tenzo's stunned face. Then he said, it's a pleasure to meet you. Chapter 32 reveals Danzo's would release techniques, indicating he had a backup plan. Noon. After finishing his morning training, Rinso left the training ground and went home for lunch. After lunch, without a moment's hesitation, he picked up a bag of fruit and left the shop, heading to the tailor's shop as usual. Outside the tailor's shop, he was so familiar with the place that Rinso didn't even knock anymore. He just pushed the door open and walked in. As soon as he entered the shop, he saw Senju sitting on a chair, wearing reading glasses and looking at newspaper. Senju heard the door open, turned her head to look. Seeing that it was Rinso, she naturally showed a kind smile. Little Rinso is here. Rinso nodded, put down the fruit, glanced at the newspaper, and said, Grandma Miho, why are you suddenly so fond of reading newspapers? Senju tilted the newspaper slightly, ensuring Rinso could also see it, then pointed to a news article on it and said, Little Rinso, look. Hearing this, Rinso looked over. The news headline was in bold, enlarged letters. Military Police Force Restructuring. Senju smiled and said, Recently, this thing the Uchiha did has caused quite a stir. Oh, Rinso thought he understood. Because they're old rivals, Grandma Miho pays close attention to the Uchiha clan? Senju shook her head, smiling as she pinched Rinso's slightly plump cheek. Little Rinso, Grandma stopped caring about the Uchiha clan a long time ago. The reason I'm paying attention to this news is because it concerns you. Rinso smiled harmlessly. Hee hee. Grandma Miho knows that this idea came from me? Yes, Grandma learned it from Hiruzen. Little Rinso, you don't know. When Hiruzen found out you had such mature thinking and were so thorough in your actions, he wished he could immediately make you the next Hokage. Senju spoke without reservation, revealing Hiruzen Sarutobi's attitude with every word. Rinso merely smiled at this, not surprised in the least. After all, he had known for a long time that Sure Sui would definitely tell Hiruzen Sarutobi about this. And Hiruzen Sarutobi wanting him to be Hokage was not difficult to understand. If he were Hiruzen Sarutobi, he would also want to quickly find a successor. After all, the Hokage position, while seemingly powerful and beloved, was actually subject to the daimyo of the Land of Fire. Moreover, he had to deal with countless political affairs every day, with no free time at all. It was simply a life of drudgery. Therefore, Rinso had no intention of becoming Hokage from beginning to end. However, he wouldn't jump out to object either. Without lingering too much on this topic, Rinso hesitated for a moment, then extended his hand. Senju looked puzzled. Do you need money? Little Rinso, are you out of money? Then Grandma will give you some. Seeing Senju misunderstand, Rinso quickly shook his head, asking Senju to pay attention to his palm. Grandma Miho, look. As he spoke, Rinso channeled the chakra within his body, releasing it in a material form. In his palm, a small sapling slowly grew out. Senju mind paused for a moment. Then her cloudy eyes suddenly burst forth with unprecedented brightness. Her voice trembling, she asked with some disbelief, Is this wood release? Yes. Rinso confirmed in his heart. The wood release, which had recently fallen from Yamato, was definitely correctly labeled by the system. Of course, Rinso still pretended to be uncertain on the surface. Grandma Miho, I'm not sure either. I started feeling this power after I was injured some time ago, and only today could I finally use it. You told me a while ago that my grandfather was a Senju clan member and that I have the Senju bloodline, so I guessed if it was would release, and that's why I came to you. Although she didn't get a precise answer, Senju didn't doubt for a moment that what Rinso used was would release. She had once conversed with Senju Hashirama and had personally witnessed Senju Hashirama's would release. Although the small piece of wood Rinso summoned was very different from Senju Hashirama's various would release ninjutsu. But that feeling of containing life force, she would not mistake it. Little Rinso, this is would release. Senju gave a definitive answer. Looking at such a young Rinso, Senju seemed to see an opportunity for the Senju clan to rise again. If Senju Tobarama hadn't died in battle, and Tsunade had left the village with no known whereabouts, without a Kaga-level expert in the Senju clan, unable to protect their immense wealth and powerful Senju bloodline, how could they have been forced to abolish their surname, disperse their clan members, and integrate into Konoha and the ninja world? Now, Rinso displayed potential, and the Senju bloodline he possessed seemed to tell her that the Senju clan might be able to rise again. Senju Miho's expression immediately became serious, and she said to Rinso with utmost earnestness, "Little Rinso, remember, besides Grandma, don't tell anyone that you can use wood release. If you absolutely must tell certain people, Grandma will go and tell them herself." Rinso understood that certain people referred to Hiruzen Sarutobi, but he didn't expose it, nodding and saying, "Okay. Then, Grandma, can I learn wood release now? I really want to learn ninjutsu like the first Hokage." The persona he had originally established was working effectively, and Rinso naturally showed an excited expression at this moment. Senju Miho hummed softly, went to the back door of the tailor's shop, pushed it open, and went to the residential area, into her own room. After searching, she brought out a ninjutsu scroll and placed it in Rinso's hand. "Little Rinso, Grandma has all the wood release scrolls here. However much you want to learn, Grandma will give you," Senju Miho said. As expected, Grandma Miho has no shortage of wood release ninjutsu scrolls. Rinso thought to himself, a satisfied smile on his face. Once he mastered wood release, coupled with the various abilities he already possessed, let alone a mere Danzo. Even Nagato with all 6 paths of pain, he wouldn't fear. Shimura clan. Danzo Shimura cursed with a gloomy face. Hiruzen Sarutobi. He seemed to have gone mad, continuously cursing Hiruzen Sarutobi in the room. Outside the room, the Umbu monitoring Danzo Shimura exchanged glances, sighing helplessly, not daring to do anything to Danzo. Although Danzo Shimura was no longer the Hokage's assistant, his influence remained, and he was also the head of the Shimura clan and a close friend of Hiruzen Sarutobi. They couldn't do anything about him cursing a bit. Moreover, having been dismissed from his position, if he didn't vent his anger, they would instead suspect Danzo Shimura of plotting something else. At this moment, inside the room, Danzo Shimura ceaselessly cursed Hiruzen Sarutobi. However, his hand was writing something on a piece of paper. Then, he performed a ninjutsu, and the paper disappeared. Danzo Shimura sneered in his heart at this moment. "Humph, Hiruzen, you limited my ability to mobilize the root and the Shimura clan ninja, but you never imagined I still have power outside the village, did you?" He stared into the air, his eyes cold as he muttered to himself. "Orochimaru, don't disappoint me." Chapter 33 Planning for the Future. Hinata faints. In the forest, Rinso formed hand seals, mobilizing the chakra within his body. Wood release. Wood golem wall. Boom. Several massive trees shot up from the ground, neatly and smoothly formed into a semicircle, engulfing Rinso and only revealing his back. "I did it." Rinso's lips curved slightly upward. Perhaps due to the influence of a child's hormones, he found himself uncontrollably excited. He reached out and touched the wood golem wall. He could clearly feel that this wood golem wall, which seemed no different from ordinary trees, actually possessed hardness and toughness far exceeding steel. "Is this wood release? It truly is extraordinary." Rinso nodded, his eyes filled with joy. Yesterday at noon, after he received this ninjutsu from Senju Miho, he promptly excused himself from the afternoon training and spent the entire afternoon plus this morning successfully mastering this ninjutsu. A C-rank ninjutsu was that simple for him. However, after the initial excitement of successfully cultivating the ninjutsu passed, Rinso suddenly frowned. "I always feel that wood release isn't as amazing as I imagined." If Rinso's words were known to other people in Konoha, they would undoubtedly give him surprised looks. How could the bloodline limit of the god of ninja not be amazing? It had to be the strongest bloodline limit, right? However, Rinso genuinely thought that way. Wood release wasn't that strong. Hashirama was strong. Rinso believed that if Hashirama possessed other bloodline limits, his strength would not decrease much. In fact, if Hashirama had mastered the dust release, a bloodline limit, the resulting scene would be terrifying beyond imagination. Ultimately, Senju Hashirama achieved that level of strength. He relied on his own chakra, which was comparable to a tailed beast. With that level of chakra, any ninjutsu would be formidable, guaranteeing at least a Kage-level expert at their peak. Subsequently, the addition of Sage Mode was the key reason Hashirama could possess strength beyond a Kage. Normally, the strength of an elite Jonin like Yamato represents the true power of wood release. Therefore, Rinso actually preferred dust release over wood release. Its extreme offensive power, which nothing and no one could block, perfectly suited his taste. If he had the chance, he would definitely find time to go to a Wagakure and figure out a way to get it. Of course, while he wasn't extremely reverent of wood release, he still intended to learn wood release ninjutsu. This wasn't about strength. It was purely because Senju Hashirama had paved the way. Hashirama developed so many ninjutsu from a bloodline limit of only ordinary strength. Wood golem technique, wood dragon technique, deep forest emergence. Each of these ninjutsu would take an unknown amount of time to create from scratch. But now, with Senju Hashirama's precedent, he could completely reap the benefits. With his chakra reserves, as long as he developed steadily, replicating Senju Hashirama's growth path was not a problem at all. The only thing he needed to consider was the matter of Sage Mode. He wanted to learn Sage Mode. Currently, it seemed there was no path to learning it. Secondly, even if he could find the 3 great Sage regions, whether he had the talent was another matter, and it would also take a lot of time, if he relied on the system to acquire it. At this time, it seemed only Jiraiya knew Sage Mode, and Jiraiya was constantly wandering, not in Konoha at all. Besides Jiraiya, Rinso also thought of one person. In Naruto, the only existence with a natural sage body, whose body could automatically absorb natural energy. Yugo. I wonder if Yugo is currently in his birth village, or if he has already isolated himself and hidden deep in the mountains. The former would be easier to deal with. I could spend time searching village by village. But if it's the latter, how was that different from looking for a needle in a haystack? Rinso rubbed his temples in distress, deciding to put these bothersome thoughts aside for now. There would always be a way when the time came. Only when he truly had the ability to protect himself in the ninja world would he leave Konoha to explore some of the good things mentioned in the original work, as well as those with special abilities and bloodlines. By then, it would still be timely to think about these things. For now, his top priority was to improve his overall strength. Collecting his thoughts, Rinso clenched his fist, feeling that his chakra had barely diminished after releasing the wood golem wall. Speaking of which, has taijutsu now become my weakness? In terms of ninjutsu, taijutsu, and jinjutsu, needless to say, was not a concern. In terms of ninjutsu, in these past days, he had learned many low-level ninjutsu from Kakashi and Shursui, and had already begun to study chakra nature transformation and shape transformation. Now, he also would release ninjutsu to learn. With his talent, it wouldn't be long before his ninjutsu reserves would be on par with those of Jonin and even Kaga-level experts. Conversely, taijutsu, which used to be a strong suit, was now somewhat lagging behind him. Unlike ninjutsu and jinjutsu, taijutsu relies most heavily on physical fitness. If physical fitness is not up to par, mastering more taijutsu techniques is out of the question. And physical fitness can only be slowly improved through daily training, day after day. In this regard, there are almost no shortcuts. The reason it's almost is because there are still some treasures in the ninja world that can improve physical fitness. Furthermore, some secret nintaijutsu also have methods to accelerate the rate of physical strength improvement. Rinso thought of the lightning release chakra mode and fell into contemplation, stimulating the body with lightning release chakra to accelerate physical growth. Perhaps I can create a similar technique myself. Rinso nodded to himself, an idea forming. To create such a technique, one must have a sufficient understanding of the body, proficiently master lightning release chakra, and possess a special body activation technique. He had already learned the body activation technique through Shursui's body flicker technique, but he was still far from mastering the first two. Work hard. Striving toward the goal will always lead to success. After saying this, Rinso set off towards the Konoha training ground. Soon, he arrived at his destination. At a glance, there weren't many ninja at the training ground. The main training group hadn't fully arrived. Only a pair of large Byakugan eyes looked expectantly at the training ground entrance, as if anticipating someone's arrival. Hinata, good morning. Rinso greeted her with a smile. Oh, Rinso-kun, good morning. Hinata's cheeks flushed slightly as she shyly returned the greeting. Rinso walked closer to Hinata, scanning the training ground, and on a whim said, Hinata, how's your gentle fist practice coming along? Do you want me to teach you? Teach me. Hinata tilted her head, a little confused. Rinso smiled and struck the starting pose for gentle fist. Yes, the 8 trigrams palms I learned from fighting Niji should be enough to teach you. Hinata's mind conjured a scene of Rinso teaching her. She was very tempted, but also felt it would delay Rinso, so her expression became hesitant. Rinso-kun, this will delay your training. Rinso immediately dropped his smile, his expression somewhat serious. Hinata, are you saying you think I'm the kind of person who is petty and doesn't care about his comrades? Hinata quickly shook her head, her small hands waving along. No, it's not like that. Then that's that. Come here, Hinata. Rinso's smile returned as he commanded her domineeringly. He pulled Hinata into his arms, controlling her wrists, his chest pressed against her back. Like manipulating a doll, he guided Hinata through the 8 trigrams palms slowly. I'll go through it with you once, then you'll do it yourself. So remember the movements clearly now, Rinso instructed. He received no reply. Rinso turned his head to look. Hinata in his arms had already developed swirling eyes, her cheeks the color of unripe cherries. Oh no, I I forgot this was a Haim who gets flustered easily. Chapter 34, the bottleneck of ninjutsu and taijutsu, seeking the flying thunder god technique. As time passed, the number of ninja in the training ground gradually increased. Kakashi, Shursui, and others also arrived one after another. Upon arriving, they saw Hinata, who Rinso had placed on a bench, unconscious. Kakashi pointed at the unconscious Hinata, looking puzzled. Rinso gave an awkward laugh and changed the subject, saying, Hinata probably didn't get enough sleep this morning and is catching up on it. Kakashi-san, please teach me swordsmanship first. Kakashi didn't think much of it, but he didn't immediately start teaching Rinso. He exchanged a look with Shursui beside him, then said to Rinso, swordsmanship, Shursui and I can't teach you anymore. Rinso frowned slightly and asked, has something happened? Don't misunderstand. Seeing that Rinso seemed to have misunderstood, Kakashi explained, Shursui and I can't teach you because we no longer have enough swordsmanship skill to teach you. With that, Kakashi smiled. In other words, your current swordsmanship fundamentals have graduated. If you want to improve your swordsmanship further, it's not something that can be improved by teaching. You can only improve by fighting others and slowly creating a swordsmanship style that suits you. Rinso let out an understanding, oh, and breathed a sigh of relief. In that case, wouldn't I save time on practicing swordsmanship? Rinso realized this point and looked at Kakashi and Shursui. If he was going to develop nintaijutsu, couldn't they brainstorm together? Thinking this, Rinso simply told Kakashi and Shursui his idea directly. After listening, Kakashi and Shursui were very interested. Nintaijutsu similar to the Hidden Cloud Village's lightning release chakra mode? That's quite interesting. What kind of taijutsu? Might Guy appeared from who knows where, his head popping out between Kakashi and Shursui. Kakashi and Shursui were startled. Seeing it was Might Guy, they sighed helplessly. Too lazy to scold the oblivious Might Guy, Kakashi simply repeated Rinso's idea to him. After listening, Might Guy's eyes immediately lit up. Nintaijutsu? Can I join in? His love for taijutsu was definitely among the top in the entire ninja world. Although nintaijutsu wasn't as pure, it still piqued his interest, especially since he happened to have lightning release chakra. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to participate even if he wanted to. Facing Might Guy's request, Rinso had no reason to refuse. In terms of taijutsu, Might Guy was an absolute authority. With Might Guy's addition, plus Kakashi and Shursui, two ninjutsu talents, and himself, an existence with monstrous taijutsu talent and extremely powerful ninjutsu talent. A mere nintaijutsu, wouldn't that be easy? Time slowly flowed by. Sun rises and moon sets, like quicksand held in one's hand. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Konoha training ground. Crackling, sizzling. Lightning release chakra surged around Rinso's body, emitting a harsh sound. A moment later, Rinso dispersed his chakra. The lightning on his body vanished, and he frowned, saying, still not working? It's been a month, and the progress seems to be stuck here. Not far from Rinso, the three of them, Kakashi, also shook their heads and said, the Hidden Cloud Village's nintaijutsu is a secret technique, one of their ultimate trump cards, so it's naturally not that easy to replicate or imitate. Don't be anxious. Rinso nodded, not refuting, but in reality, he was still anxious. Danzo, Abito, Nagato, Achiyamadura, Atsutsuki Kagaya. Judging by the speed of power inflation in the later stages, if he didn't establish an advantage early on, he might only reach Kaga-level strength in the later stages, at which point he'd be no different from Super Soldier. If only I could go to the Hidden Cloud Village and secretly learn it, Rinso thought to himself. Of course, he only thought about it. After all, with his current strength, the ninja world was very dangerous for him. Unless he had a particularly strong life-saving technique that would allow him to navigate the ninja world even with weak strength. But how could such a ninjutsu exist? He subconsciously wanted to deny it, but in an instant, the name of a ninjutsu appeared in his mind. Flying Thunder God Technique. If he learned this space-time ninjutsu, absolutely no one could kill or imprison him. In the original work, the only two who mastered this ninjutsu, Senju Tobarama and Minato Namikaze, both sacrificed themselves willingly to cover others. Otherwise, no one could kill them. If he could learn the Flying Thunder God Technique, wouldn't he be able to go anywhere in the ninja world? With his chakra reserves, he could fully support ultra-long-distance teleportation. Perhaps 1 second he'd be in the Hidden Cloud Village, and the next he could be back in Konoha. He was determined to learn this ninjutsu. Thinking this, the urgency on Rinso's face dissipated. He said to the three of them, Kakashi-san, sure, Might Guy-san, I have something I need to do. Let's call it a day. All right. The three didn't say much, watching Rinso leaving the training ground. Rinso headed straight for the tailor shop. To learn the Flying Thunder God Technique, the only avenue he could currently rely on was here. A child like him, with no contribution to Konoha, would need a guarantor to learn the Flying Thunder God technique. And the guarantor must hold significant weight, just like Minato back then. If his master hadn't been Jiraiya, he wouldn't have been able to learn the Flying Thunder God technique. Therefore, Rinso could only go to Senju Miho. At least he had to try. In the past, he wouldn't even have dared to try. It was only after his Senju bloodline and would release were exposed, and his relationship with Senju Miho deepened, that he felt comfortable coming to ask. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had the nerve. Creak. The wooden door made a sound. Rinso pushed the door open and walked in. Inside the house, Senju Miho was sewing clothes as usual, with a kind and benevolent expression. Seeing Rinso arrive, she spoke softly. "Little Rinso, you're here. Have you finished learning the 2 new would-release ninjutsu I gave you?" Rinso shook his head. "No, of the 2 ninjutsu, I've mastered the wood-clone jutsu, but not yet the wood-replacement jutsu, though I'm close." "Is that so? Then, little Rinso, have you come for something else?" Senju Miho's eyes brightened as she asked. Rinso didn't hide anything, nor did he want to, directly stating his purpose. "Grandma Miho, I want to learn the Flying Thunder God technique, but I don't have enough contributions, so I was hoping you could guarantee me." Rinso looked at Senju Miho expectantly, unable to guarantee that she would agree, so he tried his best to be cute. "Flying Thunder God technique. Is that the ninjutsu Tobarama and the 4th boy used?" Senju Miho frowned, seemingly a little troubled. Seeing this, Rinso didn't want to trouble Senju Miho and said, "Grandma Miho, if it's too much trouble, then forget it. I'll just save up enough contributions in the future and exchange it with Hokage-sama myself." Hearing this, Senju Miho feigned displeasure. "Little Rinso, are you not trusting Grandma?" Rinso shook his head. "No, but, Grandma, you'd also be troubled, wouldn't you?" "Little Rinso, you've misunderstood." Grandma frowned because I was thinking that this ninjutsu is very difficult to learn and there are certain dangers. Grandma's worried about that. Senju Miho understood Rinso's misunderstanding and immediately explained with a smile. Rinso understood, and his eyes immediately lit up, so that means... Senju Miho reached out and stroked Rinso's head, smiling kindly. "What guarantee?" "This technique was researched by Tobarama. Strictly speaking, it's a ninjutsu of my Senju clan. If Grandma wants you to learn it, even Hiruzen can't stop it." Chapter 35 Perceiving Spatial Coordinates, A Month's Harvest. Hokage's office. Hiruzen Sarutobi was engrossed in handling documents, his fingers tracing the edges of the papers, a frown on his face. A group of unfamiliar ninja has appeared within the Land of Fire's borders. Are they spies? Or are they here to gather intelligence? It seems I'll need to dispatch some ninja to investigate. Pondering this, Hiruzen Sarutobi muttered to himself. So much time has passed, and Danzo hasn't made a move. There's no need to assign 3 ninja to monitor him. 1 should be enough. I'll reassign 2 of them. It'll help with manpower shortages. Morning. Outside the orchard, at the secret base. Rinso, dressed in a well-fitting black training suit, stood facing the forest, slowly closing his eyes. His vision was shut off, and his ears were plugged with earplugs. Rinso tried his best to block off his other senses as well. Instantly, the world seemed to plunge into nothingness, triggering Rinso's fundamental human fear. That feeling of being abandoned by the world was something no one could calmly endure. But it was precisely under these circumstances that a special sense, not belonging to the 5 senses, was forcibly activated. The world was still void, but now something indescribable, something called space, was added. Ooh! Rinso opened his eyes, removed his earplugs, and breathed in the air, feeling as refreshed as if he had just woken from a long dream. He recalled that special sensation from moments ago and tried to replicate it. That unique space was once again perceived by Rinso, though it was slightly weaker. Is this a spatial coordinate? I successfully perceived it on my first try. It seems the space-time talent I picked up from Tintin is really good. Maybe it won't take me long to learn the Flying Thunder God technique. Rinso smiled. Yes, it was the Flying Thunder God technique. After he requested it from Senju Miho yesterday, he received a one-time ninjutsu scroll last night and began attempting to cultivate it this morning. This S-rank space-time ninjutsu's primary requirement was excellent space-time talent. Otherwise, everything else was moot. Furthermore, as a ninjutsu without hand seals, the Flying Thunder God technique demanded an extremely abnormal level of chakra control from the user, requiring chakra manipulation to be completed in an instant. Rinso was still far from achieving this, and could only rely on time to improve. Let's practice would release first. The Flying Thunder God technique can't be rushed, and training spatial senses consumes too much mental energy. Thinking this, Rinso swiftly performed hand seals, and then his figure vanished in the blink of an eye. In his original spot, a life-sized wooden stake had taken his place. Would clone jutsu mastered? Rinso smiled, very satisfied. Of course, what he was satisfied with wasn't his use of the wood clone jutsu, but his incredibly fast hand seal speed. This hand seal speed he had picked up from Shursui, which filled a not-so-small gap in his abilities. After all, reality isn't a manga. In a manga, to save panels, the next second can directly show a ninjutsu attack. In reality, if you don't diligently complete the hand seals, try using ninjutsu then? In fact, even Senju Hashirama, who was said to be able to clap his hands and get whatever he wanted, still performed hand seals when needed. Most of it was just omitted from the depiction. Therefore, if a ninja's hand seal speed isn't fast, even with top-tier ninjutsu, they will still fall short. Rinso was previously in this awkward situation. Due to his short training time, his hand seal speed was, if not the worst, then at least very ordinary. He had originally planned to gradually improve this by dedicating time during each training session. As it happened, he hadn't even started that training yet. The generous Shursui directly dropped it, allowing Rinso, after picking it up, to instantly possess top-tier hand seal speed in the ninja world. Cheating? Sorry, the cheat has never been turned off. It's worth mentioning that the things picked up over the past month were far more than just hand seal speed. Due to long-term research in Nintai Jutsu, he spent a lot of time with Kakashi, Shursui, and Might Guy. This also meant that the items he picked up were basically dropped by these three. Over a month, Might Guy had almost dropped all his taijutsu, with only the 8 inner gates formation never dropping, which left Rinso slightly regretful. As for Kakashi, because he knew too many ninjutsu, the dropped items were too varied. Among the large number of dropped items, the 5-element ninjutsu accounted for 60%. Shursui's drops were similar to Kakashi's, also primarily ninjutsu, some of which even overlapped with Kakashi's drops. The ninjutsu dropped by the two of them meant that Rinso wouldn't need to learn 5-element ninjutsu in the future. Relying solely on these picked-up techniques will be enough to handle various situations he might face in the ninja world. Secondly, both of them also dropped chakra nature transformation and shape transformation for lightning and fire, giving Rinso the capital to create his own ninjutsu. Aside from these taijutsu and ninjutsu, certain special items were what truly interested Rinso. Hand seal speed was just one of them. For example, Kakashi dropped ninjutsu talent, which, after integration, enhanced his ninjutsu talent a bit. Shursui, on the other hand, dropped nerve reaction speed and Uchiha Bloodline. Nerve reaction speed goes without saying. It's useful in any situation. Items picked up by the system are never overwrites, but additions. His own talent, plus the picked-up talent. So, Rinso, who already possessed extremely abnormal physical talent and exceptional nerve reaction speed, after integrating Shursui's nerve reaction speed, his reaction speed now had reached an inhuman level, comparable to an Uchiha with an activated Sharingan. After that, the Uchiha Bloodline was actually dropped by Shursui during training yesterday afternoon. Rinso had only integrated it for one night and completed the assimilation this morning. This was like a timely rain for Rinso, because he hadn't actually integrated the Mangekyo Sharingan dropped by Shursui. It wasn't because he feared chakra consumption. That was nothing to him. The main reason was that he couldn't explain the origin of the Sharingan. After all, without the Uchiha Bloodline, the Mangekyo Sharingan couldn't be deactivated. If he walked around every day with the Mangekyo Sharingan activated, he would surely be targeted. So, even though the Mangekyo Sharingan would greatly boost his strength, he had endured it. And now, he could finally integrate the Sharingan. System, open backpack, integrate Mangekyo Sharingan. Rinso said without hesitation. As Rinso's words fell, the imagined sensation did not come. Instead, a message came from the system panel. Please choose the integration method. Host. Option 1. Fully integrate Uchiha Shursui's Mangekyo Sharingan, inheriting his dual eye techniques and Susanoo. Option 2. Only integrate the Mangekyo Sharingan itself, relying on your own will to awaken your unique eye techniques and Susanoo. 2 options. Rinso was slightly stunned and fell into contemplation. Chapter 36 Lin Sheng's Kaleidoscope Eye Technique and the Fear Within. There are 2 options, each with its pros and cons. Option 1. Directly obtain the Kodoame Tsukumi and Susanoo from both eyes. No development time is needed. They can be used immediately. Especially Kodoame Tsukumi, the ability to alter others' will, is simply a cheat. Option 2. You need to awaken both Mangekyo Sharingan abilities yourself, which will take at least some time before Susanoo can be used. Moreover, the Mangekyo abilities of both eyes are uncertain. The options seem to have no dispute, but is that really the case? Kodoame Tsukumi is overpowered, but is it really suitable for me? What I need more is an ability that can directly enhance combat power, not a one-time ultimate weapon. Besides, there isn't a single bad Mangekyo Sharingan ability. Even Amaterasu is an extremely powerful ninjutsu when Kaga-level experts are not present. The ability I awaken won't be much worse than Kodo Amatsukami, right? With this thought, Rinso had made his decision. He would choose to awaken his own abilities. Even if it was uncertain, he was willing to take the gamble. In Susanoo, thinking of Shursue's green Susanoo in a derivative game, what if Shursue's Susanoo in the original work was indeed a large green one? Then he would be ruined. Moreover, if they fought together in the future and Shursui saw that he had the same type of Susanoo, how embarrassing would that be? Having made up his mind, Rinso didn't immediately make a choice, but asked a question. System, can Mangekyo abilities drop? Like Kodo Amatsukami and Kamui? Rinso asked tentatively. Within the drop range. The system gave its answer, and Rinso became even more firm in his choice. If he didn't choose to awaken his own abilities now, he would be a fool. As long as there was enough time, he could potentially obtain all those Mangekyo abilities from the original work, and Kodo Amatsukami was naturally among them. If he chose to directly inherit Shursue's Mangekyo, and then Shursui dropped the Kodo Amatsukami ability later, wouldn't he regret it too late? It's better to choose to awaken his own abilities. No matter what abilities he awakens, there will be no duplicates in the ninja world. They will be completely different abilities, and he won't find anyone to drop them for him. As he continuously weighed the pros and cons in his mind, Rinso directly said, I choose option 2. I want to awaken my own abilities. The system did not respond. But the moment Rinso's words fell, a chilling sensation instantly spread through his eye sockets. In his deep, pure black eyes, streaks of crimson climbed onto his pupils from their depths. Then, in his pupils, 3 incomplete circles appeared, overlapping each other, with the gaps facing outwards. Their appearance was not much different from the symbol for biohazards. His eyes lost focus for an instant. The coldness in his eye sockets receded, replaced by a completely different world. A tree 100 meters away, on the wrinkles of its bark, an insect no longer than 3 centimeters slowly wriggled. Its body patterns and the mud clinging to it were all clearly visible in Rinso's eyes. He looked up slightly. In the air, a leaf was blown down by the wind, almost suspended in midair. Rinso stared at this leaf until his eyes began to sting slightly from not blinking for a long time. Only then did he realize that the distance the leaf had fallen was less than the length of a fingernail. It's practically no different from time stopping. Rinso's surprise was undisguised. His already terrifying dynamic vision and neural reaction speed were now enhanced by the Mangekyo Sharingan. Now, even he himself found it difficult to judge what level his reaction speed was at. But one thing was certain. That is, in the early and mid stages of Hokage, he could achieve a dimensionality reduction strike against anyone in terms of reaction speed. It's not just the improvement in dynamic vision. The Sharingan's insight, copying ability, and Ijinjutsu can all bring about an increase in combat power. No wonder Shinju Tobarama was wary of the Uchiha. It would be strange not to be wary of a bloodline that can directly upgrade combat power by awakening or evolving its eyes. Rinso sighed briefly, then focused his mind to investigate his unique Mangekyo abilities. If I remember correctly, the Mangekyo abilities are born from each person's deepest desires, right? Obito wanted to create a world with Rin and also wanted to escape the world, so he manifested the double Kamui. Shursui wanted to resolve the conflict between the village and the Uchiha. He wanted to change their consciousness, so he manifested Kodo Amatsukami. Sasuke wanted powerful strength and the ability to control that strength, so he manifested the strongest attack, Amaterasu, and the ability to control Amaterasu, Kagutsuchi. I wonder what my deepest desire is and what abilities I will awaken. Rinso closed his eyes, and in his mind, he gradually understood the abilities of his Sharingan. Opening his eyes, a flash of blood red passed, and Rinso's gaze was somewhat complex. So, this is what I am like deep down. Rinso lowered his eyes. His 2 Mangekyo abilities were named Cocoon Break for the left eye and Indestructible for the right eye. Left eye, Cocoon Break. Upon activation, it eliminates all negative effects on himself, consuming pupil power based on the strength of the negative effects cleared. For example, Jinjutsu, poisons, cursed seals, and so on. Right eye, Indestructible. Upon activation, he can become immune to all damage for a certain period. It's not Kimui's intangibility. He can still be restrained, but he can also launch attacks while immune to all damage. The duration is closely related to his pupil power, and there is a cooldown period after activation. The 2 major abilities, seemingly unrelated, actually all point to one thing. Survival. Cocoon Break, which can clear negative statuses. Indestructible, which provides absolute defense. These are the truest reflections of his inner self. Rinso looked up, confronting his inner self. During the Nine-Tails attack a few years ago, facing the terrifying Nine-Tailed, he couldn't even resist, which planted a deep fear of death within him. Such fear that his body's defense mechanism automatically suppressed it, making him appear as if he feared nothing. Just like during the assassination attempt, he, a child less than 5 years old, dared to endure his dying body just to blow the matter up. He could never have done such a thing in his previous life, and having been reborn for only 4 short years, he couldn't have developed such courage. Ultimately, it was his true fear of death, his fear that Danzo would threaten his life afterward, that made him dare to make such a desperate move. In fact, it was just a greater fear of death suppressing a smaller fear of death. Reborn from the stable society of Earth into the ninja world for only 4 years, how could I truly integrate so easily? The fear of death has always lingered. Desperately studying, accelerating the learning of ninjutsu, jinjutsu, and Flying Thunder God, ultimately it's because I cherish my life too much. Rinso sighed with a smile, looked at his palm, then clenched his fist fiercely. But it doesn't matter anymore. Cherish life? There's nothing wrong with that. In the future, I will not let anyone truly threaten my life. Rinso's eyes gleamed as he made up his mind. Chapter 37. He sparred with sure sway and won. Konoha Training Ground. Rinso, whose heart had awakened and who had awakened 2 powerful eye techniques, was in a great mood. He looked around the training ground, feeling that the flowers and plants looked much more pleasant than usual. Hey, Hinata, you're here. In the early morning training ground, only Hinata arrived the earliest. Rinso greeted her with a smile. Hinata nodded shyly. Rinso-kun, good morning. Good morning. Rinso was in such a good mood that even his words carried a hint of positive, sunny meaning. Rinso-kun, this is for you. Hinata suddenly pulled out a red scarf from her pocket, bowed her head, and offered it with both hands. Perhaps due to shyness, a faint blush crept onto Hinata's earlobes, and her body trembled slightly. Rinso first took the scarf, then reached out to help Hinata up, and then asked in confusion, "Why are you suddenly giving me a scarf?" Hinata's face was red, and she whispered, "A while ago, when I sparred with Niji, I held on for a long time. Father praised my great progress, and that's thanks to Rinso-kun, so I wanted to give you a gift to express my feelings." Rinso understood, then smiled. "Great progress? It's mainly because you've been working hard, Hinata." Wrapping the scarf directly around his neck, Rinso's nose twitched slightly, and a faint fragrance lingered around him. "It smells so good. Where did you buy this scarf?" Rinso raised an eyebrow, asking curiously. Hinata's face grew even redder as she lowered her head, her legs rubbing together nervously. "It's knitted by me." Rinso showed a surprised expression. "Knitted by you?" Hinata hummed softly, embarrassed, her eyes timid, somewhat worried that Rinso would dislike it. But unexpectedly, not only did Rinso not dislike it, he suddenly leaned his head closer to Hinata. Sniff. The same scent. It seems it really was knitted by you, Hinata." Rinso casually pulled his head back. Hinata, however, was in trouble. Rinso's sudden closeness, the warmth emanating from his body hitting her face, was no different from dropping a nuclear bomb in her heart. She was directly defeated on the spot, unable to get up again. Thump! Looking at Hinata, whose face was as red as an apple and whose head was steaming as she collapsed, Rinso helplessly slapped his forehead. Because he was in too good a mood, he got a bit carried away. Not long after, people gradually arrived at the training ground. "What is this?" Shursui looked at Hinata, lying peacefully on the reclining chair, and questioned Rinso. "Napping, I know," Kakashi said directly, with a mysterious smile. Rinso opened his mouth, embarrassed. Yes, it's napping. Hinata is napping." Shursui nodded thoughtfully, not asking further. After a while, Mike Guy also arrived at the training ground, sweat still on his forehead. Clearly, he wasn't late. He had already gone to train early, just not at the training ground. With the 4 gathered, the Nintaijutsu Quartet continued their Nintaijutsu development. Lightning release, chakra nature transformation, body activation, chakra control. One by one, challenges lay before the 4. Among them, the output intensity of lightning release chakra, how much could maintain continuous body activation without harming the body, was the major obstacle currently in their way. In this aspect, the 3 ninjutsu geniuses and 1 taijutsu master, all 4 of them, had no good solution. All things considered, gradually trying different chakra output intensities, slowly grinding it out over time, was currently the most feasible plan. But this would require someone to actively take the risk and try. A single mistake could damage cells, causing irreversible harm to the entire person. Therefore, all 4 were still thinking of new solutions. Rinso guessed that the Hidden Cloud Village must have sacrificed many ninja to develop the lightning release chakra mode. Not long ago, he even considered taking the risk, relying on his strong recovery ability. However, the thought of cherishing his life ultimately prevailed, and he didn't actually put it into action. Now, with the Flying Thunder God technique, a divine escape ninjutsu, available to learn, Rinso was no longer so obsessed with creating nintaijutsu. Having difficulties? He could completely go to the Hidden Cloud Village, get the Hidden Cloud Village's secret lightning release chakra mode, and learn from it. As for how to get it, he already had an idea, but this idea still required him to truly learn the Flying Thunder God technique first. So when Kakashi and the other two were about to continue trying to create nintaijutsu, Rinso spoke. Kakashi-san, Shirsu-san, Might Guy-san, let's put the creation of nintaijutsu aside for now. Instead of that, why don't we have a sword fighting and taijutsu spar? Listening to Rinso's words, Kakashi and the other two exchanged glances, all showing expressions of confusion. Normally, Rinso himself was the most eager to create nintaijutsu. How could it be that after just one night, Rinso suddenly wasn't in a hurry anymore? They didn't understand. But facing Rinso's invitation to spar, they didn't refuse. They would simply assume Rinso had lost his patience and didn't plan to say anything more. After all, what could one expect from a 4-year-old child? Soon, training ground clearing. Rinso and Shui, each holding an unsealed longsword, stood on opposite sides, poised for battle. Around the training ground, upon discovering that someone was about to engage in a sword fight, many people instantly gathered, especially after realizing that the sparring parties were Uchiha Shui and Mariki Lin Sheng. It became even livelier. One was the genius of Uchiha, currently the strongest, the blinking Shui, whose name resonated throughout the entire ninja world. The other was a young genius who, at a young age, had counterkilled Chunin. Both had considerable fame in Konoha village. Therefore, even knowing the power gap between Shui and Rinso, many people were still willing to watch. Knowing that Rinso was bound to lose, they wanted to see what impressive performance Rinso could deliver. However, the subsequent sparring match stunned everyone. After Rinso and Shui took their positions on opposite sides, they didn't immediately launch an attack. Instead, they slowly shifted their feet, observing each other. Crack! The moving Shui stepped on a branch, causing his body to tilt slightly. Then he quickly adjusted in less than a second. However, it was this brief second of change that Rinso seized the opportunity, charging forward rapidly, his sword tip pointing directly at Shui's waist. Seeing this, Shui immediately raised his sword to block. Clang! After blocking the attack, Shui quickly withdrew his sword and thrust it out. He didn't see Rinso's upturned mouth, nor Rinso's sword body, which had preemptively positioned itself for defense as if in anticipation. Under Rinso's powerful dynamic vision, Shui's movements slowed down. Clang! Shui's counterattacking sword was undoubtedly blocked. The somewhat restrained force couldn't even make Rinso retreat. Instead, this futile sword thrust caused Shui himself to reveal a slight flaw. This flaw was fleeting, but with his abnormal dynamic vision, Rinso seized this opportunity. Body activation. His body's strength suddenly increased by a notch, and a long sword in Rinso's hand extended. And in the instant this flaw was exposed, it pressed against Shui's chest. Whoosh! The long sword in Rinso's hand performed a beautiful flourish, then was neatly sheathed at his waist. Rinso looked at the somewhat stunned Shui and grinned. A fluke. Chapter 38, Swordsmanship Improvement, the monster-like Lin Sheng. The entire training ground was surprisingly clean. Just like that time in the park, Rinso, who was not favored, won in one move, defeating Uchiha Sasuke. The sharp sword wind, the clean sword techniques, and his astonishing reflexes all contributed to Rinso's victory. He actually defeated Shui of the body flicker. How is that possible? He must have gone easy. Went easy? Can't you see how smoothly Mariki Lin Sheng executed his moves? How many of you can achieve that level of basic skill? That's right, his basic skills were incredible. There wasn't the slightest pause or hesitation in his moves. His basic skills are indeed impressive, but Shui clearly wasn't serious. He must have held back. Held back? Then it's not so strange, but this Mariki Lin Sheng is still incredibly strong. After all, he's only 4 years old. The arguments were incessant. After a long silence, a lot of people started to question the outcome. However, there were still some skilled individuals who recognized Rinso's extraordinary talent. Just 2 simple sword strikes revealed his profound basic skills. Nevertheless, more people were willing to believe that Shui had gone easy, rather than Rinso achieving a genuine victory. Shui slowly came back to his senses, and a feeling of defeat finally washed over him. Unlike the spectators, as an opponent, he could best feel Rinso's prowess. He also knew perfectly well that he had not held back. Although he controlled the force of his sword swings, in other aspects he did not go easy. The timing of his moves, the speed of his sword draws, and his irrepressible reflexes. He had fully committed all of these to this swordplay spar. He, who had not been defeated for a long time, was now defeated. Moreover, he was defeated by Rinso, a child not yet 5 years old. Rinso, perhaps in front of you, I can no longer call myself a genius. You won this spar. Shui gave a wry smile. Rinso smiled, saying nothing. This victory was not tainted by any opportunism or trickery. His powerful combat talent allowed him to instantly devise countermeasures. His terrifying dynamic vision enabled him to execute the plan, and his long-honed swordplay fundamentals allowed him to achieve a decisive victory in one strike. All of this was his own raw strength. Of course, if Shui hadn't suppressed his strength or had activated his Sharingan, then he would have been the one to lose. But in that case, it would have been an overwhelming display of raw power rather than a swordplay spar. Again, Shui's eyes blazed with fighting spirit, and with a smile, he challenged Rinso. Rinso, also smiling, drew his sword. I'm ready. Clang, whoosh, clang, whoosh. The sound of clashing metal constantly echoed through the training ground. Rinso and Shui both poured all their energy into the spar, maintaining the same force, purely competing in swordplay. Slowly, both became engrossed, fighting tirelessly without stopping. Gaps appeared on their long swords from the continuous clashing, but neither Rinso nor Shui stopped. In this swordplay spar, Shui had long since developed his own sword style and had a longer reach. Rinso, on the other hand, had stronger reflexes and incredibly solid basic skills. Each had their strengths and weaknesses, and they honed their sword skills against each other. As if tireless, they continued to fight until the sun was high in the sky. Tintin and Naruto had all arrived, and Hinata had woken from her faint. Some ninja who weren't on missions heard about the spar at the training ground and rushed to watch. As time passed, Rinso and Shui attacked and defended each other, neither able to overcome the other. Once Shui learned of his superhuman reflexes, Rinso could no longer easily resolve the battle by exploiting information asymmetry as he had the first time. And Shui also couldn't defeat Rinso without resorting to other means. As the two fell into a stalemate, Rinso felt that the sword in his hand was somehow different. During his spar with Shui, he slowly began to lose awareness of the sword's presence, as if there was nothing in his hand. Yet, when Shui launched an attack, he could immediately defend and counterattack. In a daze, Rinso stopped thinking. He no longer thought about sword techniques, no longer thought about how to defend or how to attack. Yet, in this state, Rinso could block Shui's every attack even faster and launch even more lethal attacks. This change was subtle, but in the eyes of Shui, his opponent, Rinso had clearly entered the next level of swordsmanship, a level no longer confined to specific sword techniques, where no technique surpassed having techniques. And on the sidelines, Kakashi, also a master swordsman, noticed the anomaly. He widened his eyes in disbelief, not even hiding his Sharingan, carefully observing Rinso, as if confirming something. After observing for a few minutes, Kakashi closed his Sharingan and let out a sound that was a mix of shock and admiration. Monster. Yes, he's absolutely a monster. He's only been practicing swordsmanship for less than 2 months, yet he can already fight Shui to a draw. My guy agreed, chiming in. A draw. Kakashi shook his head, his gaze incredibly firm. No, Shui is going to lose. What? My guy was a bit confused, not quite understanding why Kakashi said that. The situation on the field now clearly seemed like a 50-50 split, didn't it? Or rather, Shui's battle-hardened and refined swordsmanship was stronger, and Rinso was only able to barely keep up with his reflexes. In reality, Shui had the upper hand. So, Kakashi's words clearly had no basis. Kakashi didn't explain to Might Guy, simply focusing on the spar, as if to confirm Kakashi's words. This swordplay spar slowly began to change. Rinso's sword techniques became less fixed, the angles of his strikes gradually became more tricky, and each move he made always made it difficult for Shui to parry. Eventually, Shui couldn't even find an opening to attack, and his battle-hardened swordsmanship seemed as fragile as a mere display in front of Rinso. Until finally, Rinso's sword tip once again rested against Shui's abdomen. The two stopped moving. Rinso looked up, sweat drenching his clothes, soaking his hair and plastering it to his handsome face, exuding overflowing hormones. This time, he didn't attribute it to luck, and with a serious expression, he spoke. I won. Shui was no better off than Rinso. Sweat beaded and dripped down his cheeks. He sheathed his long sword and nodded. Congratulations. Both understood what the congratulations were for. Kakashi on the sidelines felt the same. Kakashi, what happened? Why did Rinso suddenly win? Might Guy asked with great curiosity. Kakashi didn't play coy this time. Rinso's victory completely proved his conjecture, and he had nothing left to hide. Might Guy, do you know? The realm of swordsmanship can be divided into 3 stages. The first stage proficiently mastering various sword techniques and having solid fundamental sword skills. The second stage, building upon the first stage, one needs to engage in countless battles to develop one's own sword techniques. Both I and Shui are in this stage. The third stage was my father's stage during his lifetime. It's no longer confined to any specific sword techniques. The moment the sword is drawn, the body naturally performs the optimal action for its purpose. My guy started to understand and immediately widened his eyes. Kakashi, are you saying? Kakashi nodded. Exactly. Just in the battle a moment ago, Rinso directly jumped from the first stage to the third stage. No technique surpasses having techniques. Kakashi's eyes still held a lingering shock. That's why I said Rinso is a monster. Chapter 39, The Three Women's Infatuation. How is that possible? It must be fake. He actually won. The timing of his sword strikes, the angles, the speed, not a single flaw can be found. Such swordsmanship. There's no way he could have achieved this even if he trained from childhood. Swordsmanship? Can't you see that his reaction speed is the most terrifying? That's Shui the teleporter. Yet he couldn't suppress Mariki Lin Shang. At the edge of the training ground, the ninja who had thought Shui was holding back all lowered their heads, feeling ashamed, but more so, shocked. Rinso, a child less than 5 years old, had actually won. What? This guy? He already has this kind of strength. Sasuke, who had arrived not long ago and watched the second swordsmanship spar, muttered in disbelief. As Uchiha Itachi's younger brother, he knew exactly how strong Shui was beneath his seemingly gentle exterior, because his brother often trained with Shui. Even if he claimed his own brother was stronger, he knew in his heart that Shui was top tier, not just within the Uchiha clan, but in all of Konoha. And it was this very person, who in his mind was almost synonymous with the word strongest, who had now been defeated by Rinso. It wasn't holding back, it wasn't going easy, it wasn't a playful spar, nor was it a spar in a weak area. It was in one of Shui's most proficient areas, swordsmanship, that he had been honorably defeated by Shui. In an instant, Sasuke felt his worldview crumble. He had always thought that the most talented person could only be like his brother. But now, even his brother couldn't possibly do that. Could he really still defeat Rinso? He had been training at the training ground recently and felt that his strength had made significant progress. But now, looking at this, his progress might not even be as much as Rinso's progress after a single day of training. In an instant, a strong sense of disparity made Sasuke lower his head, his mood incredibly low. As for the others, Tenten, Ino, and Hinata were all happy and excited for Rinso. Rinso-kun, you're amazing. Hinata looked at Rinso with adoring eyes, a blush appearing on her cheeks. Yes, so amazing. Oh, sweat is dripping down his cheeks. I really want to lick it. Ino intertwined her fingers, resting them on her chin, her eyes sparkling with hearts as she uttered something shocking. However, Tenten, who was beside her, not only didn't find it strange but swallowed her saliva. Rinso-kun smells so good. The ninja world generally matured early. At the age of 4, thoughts of love and affection had already begun to spread. At this moment, Rinso's hormone-fueled appearance after the spar undoubtedly ignited different thoughts in the three girls. Rinso, completely unaware, walked towards the three girls. After such an intense battle, even with his abnormal physique, he felt some fatigue. Seeing this, Ino was the first to step forward and offer him a towel. Thank you. Rinso took it, vigorously wiped the sweat from his hair and face, then said, I'll wash the towel and return it to you after it dries. Ino's eyes widened slightly, and she quickly shook her head, snatching the towel back. No need, I'll wash it myself. Rinso couldn't say much else, so he could only express his gratitude again. Thank you, Ino. You're so thoughtful. Many people will definitely like you. Oh, it's nothing, it's all right. Ino's cheeks instantly turned red, and she shyly turned away, taking advantage of Rinso's inattention to bring the towel to her nose and take a deep sniff. So intoxicating. Rinso didn't notice Ino's peculiarity, because Tenten had already handed an open water bottle to his mouth. He didn't stand on ceremony, gulping down the water, and was about to throw the bottle into the public trash more than 10 meters away. However, Tenten stopped it beforehand, snatched the water bottle, and smiled very naturally. Just give it to me, I can collect them and sell them for money. All right. Although he found it strange why Tenten, who never lacked pocket money, would do this, Rinso didn't delve deeper. He untied the scarf from his neck and looked apologetically at Hinata. Sorry, Hinata, I just got it from you not long ago, and I already got it dirty. Hinata's face was red, and she glanced at Ino, seemingly making an important decision in her heart, then snatched the scarf into her hands. I'll wash it clean and give it back to you. Then, Hinata hugged the scarf, sniffing its scent, her eyes becoming hazy. Rinso fell silent and quietly sat down on a chair to rest. He needed to reflect on himself. What had he done to make Hinata and the others' personalities so abnormal? Wow, Big Brother Rinso is so amazing. He can actually beat Shisui-san. Naruto's eyes were excited, and he punched the air, looking completely fired up. I wonder if I can be as strong as you. Rinso-kun, Naruto said expectantly. Rinso collected his thoughts and smiled. Naruto, you will definitely be able to do it in the future. Who knows, you might even be the strongest one here. Beside him, Shikamaru cast a glance, his expression inexplicable. He had arrived around the same time as Sasuke and had watched the entire second spar. To be honest, he was somewhat shocked by Rinso's terrifying strength, but his personality wasn't competitive, so he didn't have any other thoughts. He was looking at Rinso, now, purely out of surprise. Surprised by the meaning he heard in Rinso's words. It wasn't comfort, it wasn't encouragement. Instead, it was a kind of certainty. Never mind. What Rinso thinks. What does it have to do with me? Shikamaru decided to stop thinking about Rinso's attitude. He would just assume Rinso genuinely had high hopes for Naruto. After all, during more than a month of joint training, Naruto was one of the top improvers among their group. Especially in taijutsu, he had a lot of talent. Of course, their own progress wasn't small either. With peers training together, they were all secretly competing, and their strength improved much faster than when their parents forced them to train before. Therefore, their parents had praised Rinso, who took the lead, more than once. Now, if they didn't come out one day and trained at home instead, they would be accused of being lazy. Who could they complain to about that? Hokage's office. An Anbu knelt on one knee and reported, Hokage-sama, Mariki Lin Sheng, during the morning to noon today, sparred in swordsmanship with Uchiha Shisui. Mariki Lin Sheng won, with Uchiha Shisui not holding back. Oh, Rinso-kun won a swordsmanship spar? Is it? Hiruzen Sarutobi hadn't reacted yet, but after his brain processed the information, he immediately widened his eyes uncontrollably. He defeated whom? Shisui. Yes, Hokage-sama. The Anbu, who should have been emotionless, even had a hint of shock in his voice. Hiruzen Sarutobi didn't doubt the Anbu's report to him. He was quite confident in the loyalty of his Anbu subordinates, especially since the Anbu had no reason to tell such an easily disprovable lie. So, Rinso really defeated Shisui in swordsmanship? Hiruzen Sarutobi gripped his pipe, the surprise in his eyes impossible to hide. This is a blessing for Konoha, a true blessing. Hiruzen Sarutobi imagined the future when Rinso grew up and Konoha would become strong again. He couldn't help but grin wider and wider. The old man should give him a reward. It seems that ninjutsu would be good. With Rinso-kun's chakra reserves, that ninjutsu is perfectly suitable. Hiruzen Sarutobi muttered to himself, the name of that ninjutsu appearing in his mind. Multiple Shadow Clone Jutsu. Chapter 40 Multiple Shadow Clone Technique, Orochimaru Attacks. Here, this is the ninjutsu scroll Hokage-sama, entrusted to you. Please do not show it to others. The ENBU ninja, wearing a cat mask, handed the ninjutsu scroll to Rinso, then left. Rinso was a bit bewildered at this moment. He took the ninjutsu scroll, completely unaware of what had happened. He was just walking home when an Anbu suddenly appeared, almost making him think it was that beast Danzo trying to mess with him again. But it was just to give him a ninjutsu? Hiruzen Sarutobi? Giving me ninjutsu. Is it because he knows I defeated Shisui in swordsmanship? Is he trying to win people over? Rinso speculated. Forget it. Whatever his motive, a free benefit is a free benefit. And if it's a reward that Anbu specifically brought to me, it must be a forbidden jutsu from the Scroll of Seals. Thinking this, Rinso immediately felt a sense of anticipation. None of the forbidden jutsu in the Scroll of Seals were weak, like Edo Tensei, Flying Thunder God technique. They were all in this category. There was also Naruto's exclusive cheat in the original work's early stages, multiple shadow clone jutsu, each one very useful. Wait, it's known that Hiruzen Sarutobi knows I have Senju bloodline, a large amount of chakra, and am learning many things. Then Rinso's eyes lit up, and he eagerly opened the ninjutsu scroll. And the ninjutsu recorded on the scroll confirmed his guess. Multiple shadow clone jutsu. In the original work, it was an A-rank forbidden jutsu, practically a super accelerator. Like the B-rank shadow clone jutsu, it creates physical clones that possess their own thoughts. These clones can train in ninjutsu, swordsmanship, and acquire knowledge independently. It can be said that, apart from helping to improve physical fitness, shadow clones can handle everything else. And the A-rank multiple shadow clone, as the name suggests, can create an almost unlimited number of clones. Dozens, hundreds, thousands. As long as your mind can handle it and you have enough chakra, you can create as many as you want. One shadow clone is one-time efficiency 10, 100, 1,000, that goes without saying. In Rinso's current state, even though his chakra volume hasn't reached its growth limit, it's enough to create dozens of clones. Swordsmanship, taijutsu, ninjutsu, and I still need to develop nintaijutsu. I was originally planning to cut a few of them and make a choice, but now, practicing all of them is no longer a problem at all. Rinso smiled from the bottom of his heart, and his impression of Hiruzen Sarutobi improved significantly. Regardless of the many conspiracy theories about Hiruzen Sarutobi in his past life, he was indeed being taken care of now. So what more could he say? He could also have the will of fire, alright. Quickly memorizing the chakra flow routes and hand seals on the scroll, Rinso confirmed that he had learned it. After all, this ninjutsu was something Naruto could easily learn, so for him, it was even simpler. Putting away the scroll, Rinso walked home with a cheerful stride. However, he hadn't walked far. A chilling sensation suddenly spread throughout Rinso's body, starting from his spine. Rinso's eyes narrowed. Although he saw nothing, he immediately activated body activation, greatly enhancing his physical abilities, unleashing his full speed, and leaping from his original spot. And in the very next second after he jumped away, a series of silver needles, emitting a cold aura, landed where he had been. The silver needles were not fatal, but they carried some chakra, seemingly with the effect of restricting movement. Rinso immediately looked around vigilantly, and without the slightest hesitation, loudly shouted, "Enemy attack!" No need to shout, kid. In the barrier, everything you do is useless. Just come with me obediently, and it will be less painful, a cold voice sounded from behind Rinso. Rinso immediately turned around, and upon seeing the person, his pupils constricted. A body exuding an ominous aura, a pale, corpse-like face, and the distinctive purple eyeshadow. Finally, the terrifying presence that constantly emanated from him revealed the identity of the person before him. Rogue Ninja, Orochimaru. Rinso accurately called out the name, then observed his surroundings out of the corner of his eye. On this path he had to take home, for ninjas had appeared at some point. They simultaneously formed hand seals, releasing 4 barrier-like Genkai that enveloped him and Orochimaru. 4 purple flames battle array. Rinso frowned, recognizing the barrier before him. This was a barrier that even Kaga-level experts couldn't easily break through. He, in his current state, would also struggle to do so. So, he had to face Orochimaru? Rinso's mouth curved into a smile, his body trembling slightly. Orochimaru looked at this scene in surprise, his eyes showing astonishment. "Oh, you're not scared to see me, but excited instead? It's an interesting kid. It seems I'll have to try my best to keep you alive when I research you later." Orochimaru extended his long tongue, licking his lips, his eyes filled with a morbid obsession. "Come on, let me see what kind of power you, a child suspected of awakening the first Hokage sage body, can unleash." Whoosh! Orochimaru gripped his rapier and lunged at Rinso. Seeing this, Rinso drew the unsharpened longsword from his waist, the same one he used to spar with Shursui. "Kid, an unsharpened sword can't kill anyone." Orochimaru sneered, his rapier already close to Rinso's chest. "Can't kill anyone." Rinso raised his hand, easily blocking the rapier. Then, he pushed the longsword forward, stabbing it directly into Orochimaru's chest. This strike, which demonstrated Rinso's terrifying reflexes, successfully pierced Orochimaru. Orochimaru exploded and vanished, revealing it was a shadow clone. Rinso was not surprised by this. His gaze shifted to the distance, where the real Orochimaru appeared. Orochimaru appeared, his previous disdain gone, his expression serious. "Kid, it seems I underestimated you." Hidden shadow, snake hands. Orochimaru suddenly attacked, his arms transforming into numerous grotesque snakes that lunged towards Rinso. During the process, these snakes opened their mouths and spat out blades. Earth release, earth-style wall. Rinso formed hand seals, and an earthen wall rose from the ground before him. Some of the snakes were blocked, while others bypassed the wall from both sides, continuing their attack. Rinso quickly formed hand seals a second time. Wood release, wood golem wall. A semicircular wooden stake grew out, blocking all of these snakes. Fire release, great fireball jutsu. A massive flame surged, incinerating the snakes into spicy strips. TSK. I knew I shouldn't have hidden it. I should have just used wood release. Saying this, Rinso looked into the distance, at Orochimaru, whose eyes were almost maniacal at this moment. Wood release. It's wood release. You not only awaken the sage body, but also wood release. Orochimaru's eyes revealed an unprecedented craving. I must take you away and study you thoroughly. Rinso scoffed. If you have a strength, that is. Chapter 41, Orochimaru's do-or-die strategy. Kaga-level expert. the absolute pinnacle, standing above tens of thousands of ninja in the ninja world. His taijutsu, jinjutsu, and ninjutsu were all at least at the level of an elite jonin. Besides that, he basically also mastered more advanced, devastating ultimate moves. Hiruzen Sarutobi's Fusion Ninjutsu, 4th Raikage's Lightning Release Armor, 3rd Tsuchikage's Dust Release. Even Danzo, at the very least, possessed a terrifying Wind Release and a summoning beast that could cooperate with it. Therefore, facing a Kage-level expert, if one cannot counter his ultimate move, there will only be the outcome of instant death. Orochimaru, as an undisputed Kage-level expert, his strengths, in addition to various forbidden ninjutsu and cunning fighting styles, were his terrifying regeneration and resilience, as well as his ultimate transformation into the 8-headed serpent. In the original work, if not for Uchiha Itachi's Sword Totsuka, Orochimaru would not have gone offline at all, though it was only a temporary offline state. And, as luck would have it, due to the barrier, the venue was restricted, and the 8-headed serpent jutsu was limited here. That is to say, a Kage-level expert without an ultimate move is no different from a jonin, is he? Rinso looked at Orochimaru, a strong fighting spirit rising in his heart. Orochimaru seemed to be the perfect test for his current strength. Even if he couldn't win, he still had the Mangekyo Sharingan as a fallback. Of course, it was best not to use the Mangekyo Sharingan, if possible, as it could easily cause unnecessary trouble. Interesting, brat. It seems to take you down quickly. I must bring out my true strength. Orochimaru laughed sinisterly, his body twisting as he rushed towards Rinso. This time, his speed was more than double that of his previous shadow clone, his body twisting like a snake, making it difficult for people to predict his attacks. However, Orochimaru would not know that under Rinso's reaction speed, which was enough to crush everyone in the current ninja world, he was invincible in any close combat. Clang! Whoosh! Hiss! Orochimaru's body was incredibly pliable, allowing him to bend freely like a snake, which enabled his sword to attack from unexpected angles. This led to many people being defeated in a short amount of time. However, the new realm Rinso had just entered today meant he didn't need to memorize any moves, relying on his body's instinctive reactions. As long as his reaction speed kept up, he could defend against all attacks. It just happened to counter Orochimaru. Thus, Rinso, whose physical attributes were only comparable to a Chunin even after activation, was surprisingly at ease against Orochimaru's unpredictable attacks. Bang! Bang! Clang! Time passed by second, and Orochimaru gritted his teeth, feeling a bit strained. He was clearly the one with the stronger body, yet he subtly felt suppressed by Rinso. Damn it, you little monster! Orochimaru dared not waste time, and quickly retreated. Wind release, great breakthrough. A powerful hurricane blew from Orochimaru's mouth. Wherever it passed, the ground cracked and deformed, showing its considerable power. However, Rinso showed no fear in the face of this extremely powerful move. His hand speed was so fast that it left after images, and he quickly completed the ninjutsu hand seals. Then, he also opened his mouth, and as his chest swelled and deflated, a fierce gale was exhaled, like a wind vortex, rampaging unrestrainedly. It was the same ninjutsu, but under the terrifying chakra amplification of Rinso, its power was several times stronger than Orochimaru's. Like a big fish eating a small fish, Rinso's wind vortex instead devoured Orochimaru's hurricane, its power growing even stronger. Whoosh! The wind vortex blew past, heavily striking Orochimaru. Hiss! Orochimaru transformed into numerous small snakes scattering, then re-aggregated elsewhere. His survival jutsu was incredibly potent. This level of ninjutsu mastery and chakra volume, someone like you, is simply a natural-born expert. Orochimaru's eyes were lifeless. He didn't launch another attack. He was contemplating whether to go all out to capture Rinso. He had already determined that he couldn't capture Rinso with just ordinary ninjutsu and kenjutsu, so the next choice was whether to transform into the 8-headed serpent to capture Rinso. After a second of thought, Orochimaru decided to take a gamble. Because he understood that if he couldn't take Rinso now, once Konoha increased its defenses, he would completely lose his chance. A replica of the god of ninja with a massive chakra volume and would release. He was unwilling to miss this opportunity. Dispel the 4 violet flames formation, Orochimaru commanded. Instantly, for ninja, whom Orochimaru had found from who knows where, executed the command like puppets, dispelling the 4 violet flames formation. With the venue restrictions lifted, Orochimaru hesitated no longer, instantly formed hand seals, and his body vanished. What appeared next was a massive white snake, comparable to a half-body Susanoo. Its body was covered in scales, and 8 heads were connected to the same body, making it extremely grotesque. He's using his ultimate move? Rinso's expression became a few shades more serious, and he quickly formed hand seals with both hands. Most of his internal chakra was consumed, and more than a dozen shadow clones appeared on the street. Seeing this, Rinso immediately gave an order. Use fire release. Fire release. Great fireball jutsu. Boom. More than a dozen massive fireballs were exhaled, attacking Orochimaru from 3 directions, leaving no gaps. Flames shot into the sky, dyeing the sky red. However, fire release of such power, when hitting Orochimaru, couldn't even break his defense. It was completely blocked by the 8-headed serpent scales, not even scratching him. Rinso frowned slightly, placing his hand around his eyes, looking at the 8-headed serpent less than 10 meters away. Just as he was about to activate his Mangekyo Sharingan, he sensed a rapidly approaching chakra. Rinso immediately abandoned the idea of activating his eyes and turned to look at the figure rushing towards them in the distance. Uchiha Shursui. Shursui-san. Rinso nodded in greeting. Shursui nodded in response, a smile in his eyes. Excellent. You managed to hold on until I arrived. From now on, just leave it to me. Rinso felt completely safe. With Shursui here, not to mention capturing Orochimaru, ensuring his safety was definitely not a problem, and it saved him from having to activate his Mangekyo. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Orochimaru cursed. Shursui's appearance was like a cold announcement, informing Orochimaru, you cannot take Rinso. His efforts were all in vain, completely wasted. Orochimaru's eyes were crazed. He refused to accept it. Danzo, come out quickly and get rid of him together. Otherwise, I will expose all of our dealings. Danzo, Rinso and Shursui exchanged glances, both seeing surprise in each other's eyes, as well as a hint of so that's it. No wonder. Such a matter, if Danzo Shimura was involved, it would be perfectly reasonable. In the shadows, Danzo Shimura's eyes were sinister. He hadn't expected Orochimaru to dare threaten him. Now he had 2 choices. Help Orochimaru, finish the battle quickly, eliminate all future troubles, and he would also have a share in Orochimaru's research results on Rinso. Not help Orochimaru. His dealings with Orochimaru would be exposed, but as long as he insisted he had nothing to do with it, he would most likely be fine, at most reverting to being monitored by 3 Umbu. Danzo thought for a moment and made a decision. In the past month or so, the Uchiha had been much more compliant. Besides the fact that he hadn't secretly instigated conflict, he actually had a piece of unofficial news. That was, Shursui had revealed in a certain family meeting that due to overuse of his eyes, he could no longer use the power of his Sharingan. Shursui's loss of combat power had made the Uchiha curb their ambitions. So, a Uchiha who can't use a Sharingan? How could he be a match for this old man? Danzo Shimura sneered coldly. He slowly appeared from the shadows. Chapter 42 Danzo is finished. Orochimaru drops 2 SSRs. Danzo Shimura appeared. He was quite confident, facing a Uchiha who couldn't use his Mangekyo. From a distance, Rinso's expression grew serious. Although in the various novels of his previous life, Danzo always played the role of a clown. In fact, Danzo was an undisputed Kaga-level expert. His powerful wind release combined with his summoning beast, the elephant, was not weak among Kaga-level experts, capable of even breaking through Susanoo. Compared to the future, although Danzo didn't have as many Sharingan now, his physical fitness, reaction speed, and other attributes were all at their peak, so he might not necessarily be weaker than his future self. I still lack a powerful ninjutsu that can deliver a decisive blow. Rinso sighed slightly. Rinso, get behind me, Shursui said with a serious expression. Facing 2 Kaga-level experts alone, he couldn't afford to be complacent. Rinso complied, not wanting to cause Shursui any trouble. Orochimaru, Uchiha Shursui's eyes are blind from overuse. He can't use a Sharingan anymore. Launch a full-scale attack. Danzo Shimura, trusting his sources, informed Orochimaru. Upon hearing this, Orochimaru's face lit up with joy. If Shursui couldn't use his Sharingan, his threat would be greatly reduced. With this in mind, Orochimaru didn't bother to probe Shursui, and brazenly controlled his 8-headed serpent to charge towards Shursui and Rinso. Danzo Shimura also quickly formed hand signs at this moment, activating his skilled wind release ninjutsu. Wind release, vacuum sphere. The giant snake heads and the powerful wind release simultaneously attacked Shursui, seemingly about to tear him apart instantly. In response, Shursui's eyes widened, and a line of blood and tears flowed out. Around him, bones, muscles, and armor formed from chakra appeared in succession. The third power of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Susanoo, complete body. The green Susanoo shielded Rinso behind him, confronting the 8-headed serpent directly, while one hand met Danzo's wind release. Whoosh! The seemingly indestructible Susanoo easily blocked the vacuum sphere with one hand, while its body crashed into the eight-headed serpent, and its other hand slammed into the joints of the eight-headed serpent's eight heads. Hiss! The eight snake heads instantly stiffened, letting out sharp hisses. How is this possible? Danzo Shimura's eyes widened, his face filled with disbelief. Aren't you already blind and unable to use your Sharingan? Orochimaru glared at Danzo hatefully. He actually provided him with such false information. If not for Danzo's intelligence, how could he have been so reckless? Of course, Orochimaru was wronging Danzo on this point. The matter of Shirsue's eyes being overused, leading to his inability to use the power of his Sharingan. He himself had spoken of it at the clan council, but had never revealed it to outsiders. Danzo had only learned of it through his secret channels, so he believed it implicitly. However, he didn't know that Shirsue's claim of eye overuse was a fabrication, solely to conceal his true strength and suppress the radical faction's desire to overturn the status quo within the clan. From a results perspective, his goal was achieved. During this period, the Uchiha had indeed been much more compliant and had formed alliances with many other clans. Perhaps in a few more years, the Uchiha would be completely integrated into Konoha, and the conflict with Konoha would be completely eliminated. Who would have thought that such an incident would suddenly arise, forcing him to use Susanoo and catch Danzo and Orochimaru off guard? He's trying to escape, Rinso suddenly exclaimed. His terrifying dynamic vision allowed him to see Orochimaru secretly forming hand signs. Upon hearing this, Shirsue didn't hesitate for a moment and immediately punched again. However, no matter how fast he punched, it couldn't compare to Orochimaru's hand sign speed. By the time his Susanoo's fist landed, Orochimaru had already shed his skin like a cicada, leaving a layer of snake skin behind and detaching from the eight-headed serpent, scattering into countless small snakes that fled in all directions. Each of these small snakes could be Orochimaru, or rather, they were all Orochimaru. With such dispersion, Shirsue couldn't kill them all. He simply stopped bothering and focused all his energy on Danzo Shimura. Orochimaru! Danzo Shimura roared in anger, not expecting Orochimaru to abandon him like this. They both working together, it was not hopeless. However, he soon understood why Orochimaru had fled so quickly. Because just a second later, the voice Danzo was so familiar with sounded behind him. Danzo, you've disappointed me greatly. Danzo Shimura stiffly turned around, looking at the newcomer. It was none other than his longtime friend, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Danzo Shimura's face immediately turned ashen. He understood that everything was over. Damn it, he had only used one wind-release ninjutsu from beginning to end. Konoha village, high up, a figure in a black robe and a tiger skin mask gazed down from afar, muttering softly. No wonder the Uchiha have been so well-behaved recently, no matter how much I try to provoke them. Hiding their strength? Heh. The figure gave Shirsue and Rinso a deep look, then a swirling spatial vortex appeared where he stood, and he vanished. Below, Rinso looked up as if sensing something towards the empty high platform in Konoha. The powerful sensory abilities brought by his Senju bloodline and Uzumaki bloodline, as well as his spatial perception, allowed him to detect that subtle, hard-to-notice fluctuation. Uchiha Ibito, perhaps? Rinso narrowed his eyes slightly, his desire to learn the Flying Thunder God technique reaching its peak. If he had the Flying Thunder God technique, even if his strength wasn't enough, he wouldn't be forced by Orochimaru to consider using his Mangekyo. If he had the Flying Thunder God technique, even if he faced Ibito in the future, he wouldn't be without a countermeasure. However, before that, he had to pick up two items. Rinso's gaze fell on the ground about 10 meters away, damaged by the eight-headed serpent's body, where conspicuous light orbs popped up with messages as he looked at them. Orochimaru dropped. Eight-headed serpent technique, pick up? Yes/no. Orochimaru dropped. Ninjutsu development talent, pick up? Yes/no. Two drops that could definitely be called SSRs. The eight-headed serpent technique was fine, an S-rank forbidden ninjutsu, but it was originally a Konoha ninjutsu, so it wouldn't be difficult for him to learn. But that ninjutsu development talent was definitely a top-tier drop, no less valuable than Uchiha Itachi's combat talent or Might Guy's taijutsu talent. Various snake ninjutsu, impure world reincarnation, optimized Edo Tensei. In terms of ninjutsu development talent, perhaps only the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama, could surpass him. In fact, if Orochimaru hadn't focused so much energy on scientific research, his achievements in ninjutsu development might not have been less than Senju Tobirama's. Having Orochimaru's ninjutsu development talent would bring many benefits. Coming back to his senses, Rinso glanced at Shirsue and Hiruzen Sarutobi, then spoke. Shirin, Hokage-sama, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first, lest my parents worry. Hiruzen Sarutobi forced a gentle smile. Little Rinso, Go back quickly. Go to bed early. Learn that ninjutsu I gave you. It will save you a lot of trouble later. Goodbye. Shursui nodded in farewell. Rinso turned and left, heading home. He silently began to plan in his mind. After he returned, he would fuse Orochimaru's ninjutsu development talent, then quickly learn the Flying Thunder God technique. After that, he would leave the village and go to the Hidden Cloud village to learn the lightning release chakra mode and integrate it into his own nintai jutsu to accelerate his physical development and grow up quickly. The disadvantage of his physical fitness had caused him too much frustration. If his physical fitness were strong enough today, and his chakra reserve soared again, then, let alone one Orochimaru, even if Uchiha Madara were resurrected, he wouldn't fear him. Chapter 43, Konoha Succubus. Ninjutsu training is incredibly monotonous. Repeatedly forming hand seals, repeatedly flowing chakra. It's like an industrial assembly line. Even though Rinso is exceptionally talented and can quickly master hand seals and chakra flow, he doesn't particularly enjoy the feeling of learning ninjutsu. He only enjoys the sense of accomplishment and security that comes with mastering ninjutsu. But now, he finds himself a little different. He's still learning ninjutsu the same way as before, but why does he suddenly feel a strange interest? When casting with Golem Wall, chakra flows like this, and for Earth-style Wall, it flows like that. If I modify it slightly, can I make Earth-style Wall appear in a semicircular form too, increasing the defensive angle? This thought inexplicably arose in Rinso's mind, and he immediately wanted to try it. However, just as his hand were about to form the hand seals to try, he immediately stopped. No, the most important thing right now is to master the Flying Thunder God technique, not to improve the Earth-style Wall. Really, why do I have such time-wasting thoughts and impulses? Rinso thought carefully. Recalling last night, after he returned home, he directly fused with Orochimaru's ninjutsu development talent. Then, before going to sleep, various ninjutsu hand seals and chakra flow paths appeared in his mind, and he found that these ninjutsu seemed to have some flaws, more or less. So, just like discovering a drop of black ink on a blank paper, he had the idea to improve them. So, is it because I fused with the ninjutsu development talent? It's like a germaphobe who doesn't allow a speck of dirt on the table. The old me didn't have the eyes to spot these flaws, but now I do. Rinso helplessly rubbed his forehead, never expecting that he actually had this pursuit of perfection deep down. However, being an adult soul, his self-control was still sufficient. Those thoughts in his mind were easily suppressed, and Rinso turned his focus to diligently learning the Flying Thunder God technique. By the way, how is my main body doing? After fusing with Orochimaru's ninjutsu development talent, maybe today he can advance the development process of nintai-jutsu a bit. Rinso muttered to himself. Then he continued to study and master the Flying Thunder God technique in the secret base. Hyuga stayed at the entrance. Father, I'm going out. Hinata waved goodbye to Hyuga Hayashi, a smile on her face, eager to leave. Hyuga Hayashi stood on the steps, watching Hyuga Hinata leave, and sighed softly. Every day she can't wait to go to the training ground, just to see that Rinso kid sigh. Hyuga Hayashi shook his head. Although he felt it wasn't ideal for Hinata to be so eager, he didn't stop her. After all, Hinata's progress during this period was evident to all. At first, when fighting Hyuga Niji, she couldn't even last a single move. Later, she could already make Niji go all out, using 8 trigrams palms, otherwise there would be a stalemate. This kind of progress was the basis for him to tolerate Hinata eagerly staying by Rinso's side. Otherwise, he would even sacrifice his pride and reground Hinata. But now, possessing the Senju bloodline, awakening the first Hokage's sage body, and even favored by Senju Miho, with such potential and background, even if Hinata marries outside the clan in the future, those elders of the main family probably wouldn't be able to say no. Hyuga Hayashi collected his thoughts and turned to go back into the estate. His gaze casually swept across, and the hiding figure of Hyuga Niji came into his view. He ignored him and walked directly away. Just after he left, Hyuga Niji scurried away, chasing in the direction Hinata had left. Konoha Training Ground. Hinata covered her chest with both hands, looking inside with anticipation. Then, that unmoving figure appeared before her eyes. Mariki Lin Shung. It's just, so many Rinso-kun. Hinata's mouth dropped open in surprise, her pure white eyes darting back and forth, her head spinning. Because there were a total of 7 Rinso in the training ground. Among them, 5 Rinso were practicing 5 natures ninjutsu respectively. 1 was practicing taijutsu moves. And finally, 1 Rinso, surrounded by lightning, was researching nintai-jutsu. Seeing Hinata arrive, all 7 looked over. Hinata, you're here. Rinso stopped his nintai-jutsu research and said to his shadow clone, continue training. The 6 shadow clones continued to train. Rinso-kun, Hinata walked over, her eyes curious. Rinso casually explained, "These are my shadow clones. They can save me some effort. Conveniently, today I can spare more time to teach you." Hinata's eyes lit up. "Really?" Rinso-kun. "Of course it's real." Rinso smiled, then touched his neck and asked, "By the way, Hinata, where's the scarf you knitted for me? Hasn't it dried yet?" Hinata's face flushed. She lowered her head and stammered, It got lost, I'm sorry." Rinso patted Hinata's head, smiling gently. "Sorry for what? That was a gift from you to me. Even though it's lost, I felt your sincerity at the time, and that's enough." The personality developed in his previous life made Rinso extremely patient and tolerant, and he immediately began to comfort Hinata. Little did he know, his words were terribly devastating to a girl. Rinso-kun. Tears welled up in Hinata's eyes, deeply moved, and at the same time, she felt very guilty. Because the scarf wasn't lost at all. She had taken it home and placed it by her bedside, sleeping with it in her arms at night, and hadn't washed it at all. She was a bad girl for lying. She didn't know why, but she had inexplicably kept the scarf permeated with Rinso's scent. She was so strange. "Why are you crying? You'll make your face messy like a little calico cat. Come on, let's train quickly." Rinso reached out to wipe away Hinata's tears and began to teach her gentle fist hand in hand. Hinata's face was red, her heart warm, and then she began to train gentle fist according to Rinso's instructions. Training ground corner, behind a tree. Hyuga peeked out, watching Rinso teach Hinata. After a few glances, he pulled his head back and secretly mimicked the movements behind the tree. "Punching like this is indeed easier. I didn't expect that he, merely by imitating the gentle fist I learned, would be even more proficient than me." Hyuga felt a moment of frustration, then peeked out again, learned a bit, and then pulled his head back to practice secretly. He knew his current behavior was embarrassing, but to avoid being caught up by Hinata, he had no choice but to do so. Thus, Hyuga kept peeking and pulling back, secretly following along for a period of time, until he peeked out again, and what he saw was not the scene of Rinso teaching Hinata in the distance, but a figure blocking his path. Hyuga was startled and quickly retreated. Then he clearly saw that the person was Rinso. "You've been peeking for so long. If you want to learn, just come out. I don't mind teaching one more person," Rinso said helplessly, crossing his arms. He had no issues with Niji. Although his personality was a bit extreme in the early part of the original work, there were reasons for it. Moreover, the current Niji hadn't reached that point yet. With proper guidance, he might not necessarily grow into a sunny and cheerful young man. Facing Rinso's kindness, Hyuga lowered his head slightly, seemingly struggling. Should he set aside his pride and learn gentle fist from his former opponent? Or should he maintain his dignity and wisely leave? Rinso, however, clearly didn't have the time to wait for him and said directly, "If you want to learn, just come over and listen with us, or you can leave. Don't keep flashing in and out, it's very obvious." With that, Rinso ignored Hyuga reaction and went straight back to continue teaching Hinata. "Continue, Hinata, just now with that palm strike, slightly adjust your body movement." Just as Rinso was teaching, Hyuga walked over and silently followed along. Rinso nodded slightly, continuing to teach without a care, only adding a few extra words during his instruction. "You and Hinata have differences in physical fitness and build, so your movements need to change like this." Beside them, Hinata looked at Rinso with admiration. "Rinso-kun is so amazing. He can even handle Niji and I." Hinata recalled carefully. It seemed Rinso's popularity had always been incredibly good. Everyone he came into contact with was willing to trust him and consider him a friend. Unless the initial impression ruined the relationship to a certain extent, there was truly no one who had any conflict with Rinso. "He's so amazing, Rinso-kun." Hinata, lacking information, didn't know how to describe Rinso. If she knew more, she would definitely crown Rinso with the title. Konoha Succubus appeals to all genders and ages. Chapter 44, a power shift imminent. Abito starts to cause trouble. Secret base. Time slowly passed, and in the blink of an eye, several days went by. Rinso deeply realized how convenient the shadow clone technique truly was. Want to improve his mastery of 5 natures ninjutsu, mastering the nature and shape transformations of the 5 types of chakra? Easy. He'd just create 5 shadow clones and have them train. Want to learn more taijutsu moves? Easy. He'd create 1 shadow clone specifically for learning taijutsu. Want to master more jinjutsu for emergencies? Easy. He'd create 1 shadow clone specifically for learning jinjutsu. Ninjutsu, taijutsu, jinjutsu. These tasks, which originally required Rinso's undivided attention, no longer needed his worry. He can now focus his energy on more important matters, such as the development of nintaijutsu. Since it involved improving physical attributes, this was something shadow clones couldn't provide feedback on, so Rinso had to do it himself. Thanks to Orochimaru's ninjutsu development talent, there had been some progress in the development of nintaijutsu. For example, by drawing inspiration from the 8 Inner Gates formation, he incorporated a method of temporarily releasing physical limitations into the nintaijutsu he was creating. During combat, he could not only rely on lightning release chakra to enhance his physical attributes, but also simultaneously unlock his physical limitations, achieving a double amplification. For this, Rinso specifically created a shadow clone, and after applying to Hiruzen Sarutobi, it went to Konoha Hospital to study human anatomy. All this progress was going quite smoothly. It was just that every day, after dispelling the clones, the memories of all the clones returning made him a bit of a headache. Of course, it was only a headache. After all, he possessed the Mangekyo Sharingan, giving him extremely high mental attributes. If it were anyone else, they would have probably suffered a mental breakdown within a week. Fortunately, his efforts were not without reward. Currently, in terms of 5 natures, he had essentially mastered them to a proficient level. This level represented an extremely high mastery of ninjutsu, allowing him to freely adjust the amount of chakra flow and control the power of the technique. For example, Uchiha Madara's mastery of Great Fire Annihilation was extremely high. He could increase the chakra flow to achieve a level of 1 Madara versus 1 squad. If it were just an ordinary level of ninjutsu mastery, one could only transmit chakra according to the initial chakra flow when the ninjutsu was first created. Otherwise, rashly increasing the chakra flow would not only fail to increase the ninjutsu's power, but could also lead to the failure of the ninjutsu's release. This point was similar to Naruto. Due to the Nine-Tailed, his chakra control was imprecise, sometimes too much, sometimes too little, so his ninjutsu often went wrong. Besides 5 natures ninjutsu, Rinso had also fully mastered the nature and shape transformations of the 5 elemental chakras. These provided him with the foundation for creating his own ninjutsu, and even fusing his own bloodline limit wasn't impossible. It just required a lot of effort, and he currently didn't have that much time. Afterward, there were things like taijutsu, kinjutsu, and jinjutsu. In terms of kinjutsu, he had already reached a point where he could no longer improve. In taijutsu, he now taught Hinata and Niji Gentle Fist every day. Through teaching, his understanding of Gentle Fist also deepened. Rinso felt that he might be able to create his own unique fighting style based on this in the future. As for Jinjutsu, he had basically learned all B rank, C rank, and D rank ones. With the Mangekyo Sharingan, these Jinjutsu, when amplified, also had considerable power, enriching his arsenal of techniques. Finally, and what Rinso was most concerned about, Flying Thunder God technique and wood release. The Flying Thunder God technique was the main focus of his energy during this period. The learning progress was still slow and very grueling. Mainly in terms of spatial perception, it could only be a slow, painstaking process. He couldn't even use multiple shadow clones to quickly increase his spatial perception proficiency. Because perceiving space was such a delicate matter, multiple clones perceiving it could easily lead to inaccurate spatial perception. If he dared to be lazy at this time, he might end up stuck in a tree hollow or a wall when teleporting in the future. Wouldn't that be a reenactment of Mariki Lin Shung stuck in the wall? Fortunately, after all this time, and after grinding for so long, Rinso felt that in another day or two, he would be able to start learning the second step of Flying Thunder God, which was how to circulate chakra. At this step, he would be able to use multiple shadow clones to quickly master it, and then he would truly master the Flying Thunder God technique. Beyond Flying Thunder God, wood release was the second most significant focus of Rinso's energy. Ever since he was attacked by Orochimaru, he had always wanted to learn a powerful wood release technique that could serve as a trump card. So, on the afternoon of the next day, he went to Senju to request one. Upon learning that he had been attacked again, Senju didn't hold back and directly gave him the wood release, wood golem technique. However, because this ninjutsu was not easy to learn, Rinso hadn't truly gotten the hang of it yet. Rinso planned that once he truly mastered it, he would try combining Susanoo with the wood golem to see what that felt like. Speaking of which, it feels like after so much time getting used to the Mangekyo Sharingan, Susanoo should be usable now. After I learn Flying Thunder God, I'll find a secluded place to see what color my Susanoo is, Rinso muttered to himself, then continued his spatial perception training. Almost there, just a little more effort, and once he mastered both the Flying Thunder God technique and the wood golem technique, his combat power would undergo a significant leap. Konoha Training Ground. Morning. Everyone watched the 7 Rinsos sitting together, resting, with various expressions. Although many days had passed, they could only say they were barely accustomed to seeing so many Rinsos. Of course, more than that, There was admiration for Rinso. So many clones learning things together. He was practically a study-hole king. Rinso-kun, I don't understand some things about chakra control today. Can you teach me? Tintin hugged Rinso's arm, pouting playfully. Rinso smiled helplessly. All right, I'll create a shadow clone to teach you, okay? Tintin nodded shyly. Thank you, Rinso-kun. The custom kunai you asked me to prepare are ready. I told my dad not to charge you. Custom kunai. Kunai made from precious chakra metal, allowing chakra to flow through them. These were Rinso's preparations for the Flying Thunder God technique, which he would soon learn. The Flying Thunder God technique allowed for instant movement using markers. However, in combat, it was impossible to place markers next to every enemy beforehand. Therefore, by engraving the marker on a kunai, he could throw the kunai near an enemy, then instantly move to the kunai's location, achieving the result of teleporting next to an enemy for a fatal blow. No need, Tintin. I teach you because we are friends, not because I want to get anything from you. Rinso smiled and shook his head, refusing Tintin's kind offer. Chakra metal was not cheap. How could he let Tintin bear the cost? Anyway, he was deeply cared for by Senjimiho. This little old lady, although she only lived in a tailor shop, had an incredibly solid family fortune. The cost of a mere chakra metal, the old lady directly covered for him. Rinso-kun, Tintin stared at Rinso unmoving, and whether it was an illusion or not, her already rosy cheeks were now much redder. What a bad man, saying such unfair things. Ino pouted slightly, though she was actually a bit envious in her heart. She also wanted to hear Rinso say such things to her. However, she could only dream about it. Instead, the timid Hinata took the initiative at this moment. She stared blankly at Rinso, and despite her face burning red, she still bravely managed not to faint as she asked, Rinso-kun, is it because of that that you teach me too? Yes, Rinso openly expressed his feelings, smiling. Who made you so cute, Hinata? I'm cute. Hinata was so stimulated by these words that her hair seemed to stand on end, her body stiffened, and she fell backward, caught in Rinso's arms. Already accustomed to Hinata's low attack and low defense, Rinso skillfully laid her down on a bench. Just then, a figure arrived at the training ground. It was Uchiha Shursui. He was uncharacteristically late, arriving only after everyone had finished their first round of training and started resting. No one was so arrogant as to blame Shursui for being late. But everyone noticed that Shursui's expression was extremely complex. Shursui, what's wrong? Kakashi asked. Shursui looked at everyone and didn't hide it. I apologize for being late. Because last night, the head of the Inuzuka clan was assassinated. The assassin had a 3-tomo Sharingan. Hearing this, everyone's expressions changed, and they instinctively wondered if someone in the Uchiha clan was about to betray them. Only Rinso frowned slightly, and a certain masked individual with a tiger skin mask flashed in his mind. His intuition told him this matter was inextricably linked to Uchiha Bido. Chapter 45 Abido's Goal. Mastering the Flying Thunder God Technique. Everyone, don't be so serious. The Inuzuka clan head is very strong and wasn't seriously hurt. Our clan is also conducting an urgent investigation and will give the Inuzuka clan head an explanation. It's fine. Shursui-san didn't want everyone to worry about him, so he showed a gentle smile. If anything happens, remember to tell us. We will definitely help you. Might Guy grinned widely and patted Shursui-san. The others didn't speak, but they all nodded. Shursui-san nodded gratefully, then looked at Rinso and said, Rinso, could you come with me so we can talk alone? Rinso nodded. Okay. The two moved away from the group to another spot. Shursui-san looked troubled and pleaded, Rinso, the fact that my eyes are fine and I can still use them has been exposed. Now some elders in the clan have a lot of opinions about me, and it's making the clan unsettled again. Do you have any ideas? The fact that his Sharingan was intact was exposed. The first person Rinso thought of was Uchiha Bido. That night, when Shursui-san used his Mangekyo Sharingan, only a few people knew about it. Among them, Orochimaru fled in a hurry and had neither the ability nor the need to spread such news. Danzo Shimura was arrested and taken to Konoha prison that very night. The Shimura clan's pleas did not change Hiruzen Sarutobi's mind in the slightest, and he's been imprisoned ever since, so he also had no ability to do this. Beneath these two, Hiruzen Sarutobi had even less reason to reveal it. Recalling the spatial fluctuations he sensed that day, Rinso had an idea. Uchiha Bito. That name appeared in his mind, and combined with Shursui-san's mention of the Inuzuka clan head's assassination, Rinso immediately connected the dots. To reignite the conflict between the Uchiha and Konoha, he exposed the fact that Shursui-san's eyes were intact, and then used Sharingan to assassinate the Inuzuka clan head, not truly killing him, but leaving him alive to stir up trouble. How insidious. Rinso narrowed his eyes slightly, a decision forming in his heart. He looked at Shirsu-san and replied, Shirsu-san, the fact that your eyes are fine isn't a big deal, but you must pay attention to the heads of the various clans in the village. They will surely face the same kind of assassination as the Inazuka clan head. Shirsu-san frowned after a brief thought. Are you trying to say that the ninja with the 3-tomo Sharingan wants to use this method to reignite the conflict between the Uchiha and Konoha? Yes. Rinso nodded, further speculating. Next, he will definitely continue to assassinate the clan heads. After inciting conflict, he might even truly kill a clan head to ignite the conflict. Kill a head of a major clan? A 3-tomo couldn't possibly do that. A Mangekyo. Shirsu-san's eyes widened, very surprised that another Mangekyo still existed within the Uchiha. Nine-Tails attack. Rinso subtly guided, not saying a single extra word. It's that Uchiha. Shirsu immediately understood, then, uncharacteristically, gritted his teeth, extremely angry. He would never forget the person who controlled the Nine-Tail to destroy Konoha and escalated the conflict between Konoha and the Uchiha. But now, he hadn't gone looking for trouble with that person, yet that person had once again started causing problems. Rinso, thank you. I know what to do next. Shirsu-san expressed his gratitude to Rinso. Rinso nodded, and the two returned to the training ground, training as if nothing had happened. Only the two of them. One was thinking about what Rinso had said, contemplating what to do next. The other had already put the matter out of his mind and was starting to think about what to do after learning the Flying Thunder God technique. For Rinso, he owed the Uchiha nothing. What he had done so far was already benevolent and righteous. Now, his main energy still needed to be focused on the Flying Thunder God technique and improving himself. The Uchiha's problems could be left for Shirsu-san to solve himself. Anyway, after his long efforts, the relationship between the Uchiha and the village had eased considerably, and Danzo had even been sent to prison, so Shirsu-san was basically out of worry. No matter how bad the subsequent situation got, it wouldn't lead to the clan's extermination, right? Moreover, even if it really came to that point, as long as he was strong enough, wouldn't he be the one to decide how the situation developed? His head pricked slightly. Immediately after, a memory slowly surfaced. Rinso sorted through the memory, and after browsing it, his expression became uncontrollably joyful. For no other reason, his shadow clone, which he had arranged to study the Flying Thunder God technique at the secret base, had voluntarily dispersed, bringing him news. The first and most difficult, time-consuming step of the Flying Thunder God technique, spatial perception. He had completely mastered it. This meant that he could now use all his clones to intensely practice the Flying Thunder God technique. Thinking of this, Rinso immediately recalled all his shadow clones. Those training the 5 natures and chakra control, those training taijutsu, kenjutsu, and even the clones studying at Konoha Hospital were all recalled by him. Now, he would use all his clones to cultivate the Flying Thunder God technique. So, Rinso looked at the people in the training ground and said, I have something else to do, so I'm leaving first. Everyone had no objection. They knew Rinso would sometimes suddenly do this, thinking of something and immediately going to do it, usually returning to normal the next day. However, they couldn't have imagined. This time, once Rinso disappeared, he was gone for a full 7 days. Outside the Mariki fruit store, Tintin and the others gathered together. The hospital, the training ground, the tailor shop, Rinso hasn't been to any of them this past week. He hasn't gotten into trouble, has he? Sasuke frowned. He won't get into trouble. Big brother Rinso is so amazing. You're not allowed to curse him, Sasuke. Naruto said discontentedly. Teach, you wouldn't think I care about him, would you? It's Tintin, Ino, and Hinata who were clamoring to find Rinso. I'm just tagging along. Sasuke turned his head away haughtily. Shikamaru's mouth twitched slightly, speechless at Sasuke's personality. Yes, Rinso hadn't appeared for 7 days, and Tintin, Ino, and Hinata were indeed the first to suggest coming to find Rinso. But Sasuke showed no reluctance at all, even subtly implying that he just wanted to fight Rinso again to test his own strength. His intentions couldn't have been more obvious. Sasuke, you jerk! Hearing Sasuke's words, Naruto clenched his fists. Stop arguing. Everyone is here to ask Rinso's parents, not to watch you two fight. Niji spoke calmly. Oomph. Sasuke turned his head away, no longer paying attention to Naruto. Too lazy to argue with you. Naruto made a face at Sasuke and stopped bickering. Seeing the two calm down. Among the crowd, Tintin, being the most familiar with Rinso's parents, stepped forward and knocked on the fruit store door, then pushed it open and walked in. The others followed closely behind. Inside the store, at the cashier's position, Rinso's mother, Mariki Hanako, looked up, seeing so many little sprouts entering the store, and after carefully discerning the features of a few of them, she smiled and said, Tintin, Ino, These must be little Rinso-S friends too, right? Are you here to find them? Because their stores were on the same street. Ino and Tintin were the only ones who had interacted with Mariki Hanako. Compared to the others, they should have been more natural. However, perhaps due to a shift in certain thoughts. Now facing Mariki Hanako, both Tintin and Ino became a bit reserved, looking very nervous. And Hinata, at this moment, was blushing nervously, greeting shyly, "Hello, Aunt Hanako." Mariki Hanako looked at Hinata, showing a gentle smile. What a cute child with rosy cheeks. You must be Hinata. Little Rinso always talks about you. Talks about me. Hinata's head immediately started steaming, and she was about to faint. Hinata, it would be very rude to faint. Hyuga Niji reminded calmly. Instantly, Hinata's eyes widened, and she forcibly regained her composure. Mariki Hanako chuckled at this. So cute. Why don't you just become our little Rinso-S wife in the future? It's over. This thought popped into everyone's mind. Thump. Hinata collapsed, as if on cue. Mariki Hanako's expression immediately became a bit flustered. She quickly picked up Hinata and placed her on her reclining chair. This, Hyuga Niji sighed helplessly. Auntie, Hinata will wake up in a moment. Please let her lie here for a while. Mariki Hanako nodded repeatedly. Oh, okay. By the way, little Rinso told me that he's learning ninjutsu in a secret base. It seems he's almost mastered it. So he should be able to play with you all again very soon. Having gotten their answer, everyone was no longer in a hurry. And because Hinata had fainted, they decided to stay in the fruit store for a while, waiting for Hinata to wake up. Mariki Hanako was also happy about this, taking the opportunity to get to know everyone. There was no need to say more about Tintin and Ino, whom she already knew. As for the others, Mariki Hanako carefully got to know the few whose names she had only heard from Rinso. For example, the hard-working taijutsu genius, Lee, the lazy smart person, Shikamaru, the big eater who loves to eat, Choji, the cold-faced tsundere boy, Sasuke, the double-standard strong girl, Sakura, the loyal subordinate, Naruto, and the emotionally closed-off person to be reformed, Niji. Upon receiving their labels from Rinso, through Mariki Hanako, everyone's expressions varied. Among them, Sasuke had the biggest reaction, constantly refuting, and Sakura also strongly disagreed, believing she was never double-standard. However, in Mariki Hanako's eyes, all these labels given by her son were very accurate. Creak. Suddenly, the fruit store door was pushed open from the outside. Everyone looked over at the sound. Walking into the store was Rinso, holding a kunai. On that kunai, the Flying Thunder God mark with a taijutsu pattern was engraved. The Flying Thunder God technique mastered. Chapter 46, Encountering Forest Bandits. Susanoo. Rinso, big brother. You're finally back. Naruto shouted excitedly. Rinso said, yes, I'm back, and I'll have a lot of free time from now on. Rinso-kun, is the kunai in your hand custom-made at my family's shop? Tintin asked curiously. Rinso nodded. Yes, I just picked it up from your family's ninja tool shop not long ago. Tintin. Oh, Tintin stared at the yin-yang pattern on the kunai, wondering, strange, there shouldn't be any marks on it when custom-making kunai, right? Rinso glanced at his unique Flying Thunder God mark, having no intention of explaining. He directly changed the subject, saying, Are you all here to find me? Ino's cheeks were slightly red. Yes, who told you to keep not showing up? It made us quite worried. Rinso scratched his head, revealing a sunny smile. Well, I really made you all worry. Since that's the case, let me treat everyone to dinner. Dinner together? Great, great. Naruto was the first to jump out and agree, thinking to himself that this time he absolutely had to sit next to Sakura. Oomph. Sasuke snorted, not responding. He seemed a bit angry, perhaps because he knew Rinso's label for him. Rinso glanced at him, ignoring him completely. Anyway, with Sasuke's personality, he would still go when the time came. Then Rinso looked at Hinata on the lounge chair and immediately knew who must have stimulated her. Without thinking too much, Rinso decided to wake Hinata directly. Facing Hinata, who often fainted from shyness, Rinso already had his own method. He walked up to Hinata, leaned close to her ear, and whispered, Hinata, if you don't wake up, I'll kiss you. It was instantly effective. Hinata sat up from the lounge chair in an instant, her mind clearer than ever, her cheeks radiating enough heat to boil water. Rinso-kun, Hinata murmured, her voice soft, like she was pouting. Rinso's smile grew wider, and he said gently, Yes, it's me. I'm inviting everyone to dinner. Hinata, you should come too. Mocha Hinata, still a bit dazed, agreed without thinking. Well, Mom, I'm taking them. We won't be back for dinner, Rinso said to Mariki Hanako. With that, he directly led everyone out of the fruit shop. It was at this time that Naruto and the others began to tell Rinso their thoughts. Rinso, big brother. Aunt Hanako said, I'm your most loyal little brother. Is that true? Rinso, what does person to be reformed mean? Rinso, why do you say I'm a hypocritical, super strong girl? That's wrong. In the shop, looking at the chattering crowd surrounding her son, Mariki Hanako showed a relieved smile. He's really made so many friends, little Rinso. Night. At the Konoha village gate. Rinso, under the cover of darkness, arrived outside Konoha village with a few body flicker techniques. Rubbing his stomach, full from the barbecue dinner, Rinso couldn't help but say, I really ate too much. I've been diligently practicing the Flying Thunder God technique at home for 7 days, and I haven't had barbecue in so long. I got carried away and ate a lot. By a lot, he meant he alone ate 100 plates of substantial barbecue. If it weren't for the powerful digestive ability brought by the Senju and Uzumaki bloodline, he probably wouldn't be able to move at all. Instead of, like now, secretly leaving the village to implement the plan he had long conceived. Standing at the Konoha gate, Rinso placed his hand on the ground, channeling chakra, and immediately left a yin-yang symbol mark on the ground. He had left such marks at the fruit shop, at home, at the training ground, at Konoha Hospital, at the tailor shop, and various other places in Konoha. He had basically left them everywhere. From now on, wherever he wanted to go, he could just use the Flying Thunder God technique to teleport. This was also because his chakra reserves were sufficient. Otherwise, he really couldn't use the Flying Thunder God technique like this. After all, the Flying Thunder God technique consumes more chakra the farther the distance. If the distance was too far, a simple teleportation might consume a full unit of chakra. According to my plan, I'll most likely be teleporting back and forth between several ninja villages in the future. Such consumption, even for me, is quite a lot, Rinso thought to himself. Then, he continued his journey, moving in extremely fast pace. And, at every interval, he left a Flying Thunder God mark. Thus, from night to day, Rinso traveled non-stop until the sun rose. Then he instantly teleported home and had breakfast with his parents. After breakfast, he would normally go to the training ground. But now, he had his own plan to implement. So, Rinso directly created a shadow clone to take his place. As for himself, he instantly teleported back to the farthest point he had reached during his journey last night. Feeling some of his chakra depleted, Rinso was unfazed and continued his journey. As if tireless, he kept running and traveling, only teleporting back to Konoha to buy 2 soldier pills to replenish his stamina when he got hungry midway. It must be said, although the taste was mediocre, the energy replenished after eating them was immense. Stop, you brat. A fierce voice came from ahead. Rinso stopped, his gaze sweeping left and right as several figures emerged from the bushes. At the same time, he also sensed several chakra signatures behind him. Observing their attire, some were well-dressed, others poorly dressed, even ill-fitting, as if the clothes were not originally theirs. Moreover, these people had one thing in common. The clothes on each of them bore brown stains left after blood had been washed away. So, robbers? Rinso asked calmly, having already anticipated this before leaving Konoha. In fact, he was even a little surprised that he only encountered robbers now, after traveling so far. He had originally thought he would encounter them much earlier, as mountain and forest bandits were rampant in the ninja world. If not for this, so many merchants wouldn't constantly hire ninja from the 5 great villages to escort their caravans. He was just a child, though he developed faster than average, looking no more than 7 or 8 years old now. But the fabric of his clothes looked very good at a glance, and his ninja tool pouch, any single ninja tool inside was worth a lot. Brat, leave your ninja tool pouch and clothes, and we might spare your life. Hurry up, otherwise, our big blades are not merciful. The bandit leader at the front spoke sharply, his 1-meter-long, 30-centimeter-wide decapitation blade exuding a strong sense of oppression. These forest bandits, at first glance, were clearly not ordinary. If they ganged up, even a genin would find it hard to escape. But unfortunately, they encountered Rinso. Looking at the circle of forest bandits slowly closing in on him, Rinso revealed a somewhat excited smile. Leaving Konoha, this was his first take action. Good, there was no one else around except these forest bandits. Then, Susanoo. Chapter 47 Black Susanoo, comparable to a demon god. Espionage plan. Crimson blood spread across Rinso's eyes until it covered his entire pupils. Then, on his blood-red pupils, Kama-like Tomo slowly emerged. 1 Tomo, 2 Tomo, 3 Tomo. Finally, the 3 Tomo seemed to merge, intertwining with each other. As Rinso's eyes opened and closed, his unique Mangekyo pattern appeared. A cold chakra was generated in his brain, surging into his body, merging with normal chakra to form a special Mangekyo chakra. No hand signs were needed, nor did he need to control the flow of chakra himself. Simply issuing a command to his mind, the Mangekyo chakra would automatically circulate along a specific path. Then, a pitch-black chakra, as cold as an abyss, surged out from Rinso's body. Like the claws of a demon king from hell, the chakra condensed into a huge black bone claw, terrifying and ferocious. First stage, bone claw form. Then, based on the bone claw, the chakra was further shaped. As if a demon had been resurrected in a body, a pure black skeleton rapidly condensed at the connection of the bone claw until the final skull appeared. Second stage, skeleton form. Finally, above the skeleton, the chakra transformed into flesh, layer upon layer, surging and clinging to the black skeleton, completely covering it. Third stage, muscular form. By this point, the bandits around Rinso were all stunned on the spot. The few people standing directly in front of Rinso even sat on the ground with weak legs, their lower bodies wet, emitting a faint stench. In their eyes, their attention was no longer on Rinso, a mere child. Instead, they all looked at the eyes of Susanoo, kneeling and kowtowing. Lord Demon God, don't kill me, don't kill me. Lord Demon God, he is the boss. He was the one who wanted to rob us. Please kill him. Lord Demon God, I still have a wife and children. Please spare me. The bandits didn't even dare to think of escaping. In their opinion, Susanoo, nearly 10 meters tall, emanating black flames and a cold aura, was simply a demon god from hell coming to claim their lives. So how could they resist? However, it wasn't over yet. In the terrified eyes of the bandits, the already terrifying black demon suddenly had a neat and exquisite fitted armor appear on its body. Fourth stage, perfect Susanoo. Inside Susanoo, Rinso clenched his fists as if he sensed something. Susanoo also clenched its fist with his movement, but in Susanoo's hand, a long spear instantly appeared. With the appearance of the weapon, Susanoo immediately exuded a powerful killing intent. Seeing this, several of the more timid bandits immediately foamed to the mouth in fear, their hearts actually stopping. Those who were bolder were now also sweating profusely, wishing they could just commit suicide rather than face Susanoo directly. But Rinso didn't even look at them. After carefully feeling the powerful strength and consumption brought by Susanoo, he casually held the long spear and swept it forcefully. Poof! As the long spear swept across, trees were cut in half at the waist, and the bandits' bodies exploded into pieces of flesh, scattering in all directions, with no one left capable of breathing. Seeing this, Rinso closed and opened his eyes, turning off his Sharingan, and Susanoo also disappeared. Rinso stroked his chin and murmured, "It doesn't seem like too great ocular ninjutsu. Susanoo is purely condensed from chakra, like a ninjutsu that can be learned. As long as the trajectory of chakra flow is recorded, it can be used. No wonder Uchiha Madara could use it in the original work even without eyes." Thinking of this, an idea formed in Rinso's mind. With his current ninjutsu development talent, perhaps he could reference Susanoo and the wood golem technique to create a Gundam ninjutsu unique to him. He suppressed this thought, planning to start researching it when he had time. As for now, he was still very satisfied with his Susanoo. Its pure black color and appearance like a demon god from hell were not only incredibly majestic, but also very cool. It was just a pity that the Mangekyo Sharingan was ultimately not an eternal Mangekyo, so he still couldn't summon a complete body of the perfect Susanoo. He scanned the bloody scene. Rinso no longer wasted time and left instantly. These bandits were simply too weak. They couldn't even withstand the pressure. Otherwise, he would have wanted to try Susanoo cladding the wood golem. Yes, like the Flying Thunder God technique, he had already mastered the wood golem technique, which elevated his overt combat power to another level. As for equally powerful ninjutsu, like the wood dragon technique and deep forest emergence, Rinso wasn't as concerned. Although he had already obtained them from Senju Miho, he only gave them to a shadow clone to slowly learn. His current focus was primarily on accelerating his physical growth, which was the development of nintaijutsu. And this was also the main purpose of his outing, the ultimate goal of his plan. And his plan was neither to seize by force nor to steal. After all, with the system, doing such dangerous things was completely unnecessary. His plan was to go to Hidden Cloud Village as a spy, showcase his talent, get close to the fourth Reikage, and rely on time to wait for the fourth Reikage to drop the lightning release chakra mode. This plan would only work when he was young. Otherwise, when he got older, even if he showed talent, it would be impossible for him to be highly regarded. In Rinso's imagination, if his plan was feasible, he would replicate it in other ninja villages as well. For example, the dust release of Awagakure, the magnet release of Hidden Sand Village. All were worth his effort. As for Konoha, he could completely handle it with shadow clones. Whenever his physical presence was required, a single Flying Thunder God would allow him to return immediately. This was also one of the reasons why he absolutely had to learn Flying Thunder God. 5 days later, within the land of lightning, in the forest. A caravan consisting of 3 carriages slowly advanced. In the foremost carriage, a yellow-haired ninja wearing a Kumogakure forehead protector closed his eyes, feigning sleep. The carriage continuously jolted. Suddenly, the yellow-haired ninja sharply opened his eyes and said, "Stop." "Yes." The caravan manager immediately called for the team to stop, looking nervously at the yellow-haired Kunoichi. "Ninja-sama, did you sense bandits?" Samui did not answer. She simply stood up and walked in one direction. She walked for a distance and pushed aside a man-high bush. Then, what came into her view was a small figure, appearing to be only about 7 or 8 years old. However, a child of this age was currently fighting 3 fierce beasts, 2 brown bears and a tiger. Even more surprising was that the boy was actually gaining the upper hand. He held a severely damaged sword in one hand, yet he easily suppressed the 2 brown bears and the tiger, as if toying with them. He himself was unharmed, but had already left many wounds on the 3 fierce beasts. This kind of swordsmanship, Samui's eyes lit up. After Samui appeared, as if worried his prey would be snatched, he delivered 2 punches and then directly pierced the brown bear's heart with his sword. The other brown bear and the tiger, seeing this, fled in fear. The boy did not pursue. He only looked at Samui. "Are you going to snatch my prey?" Samui shook her head, as if looking at an unpolished jade, and invited, "Do you want to come with me to Hidden Cloud Village?" Chapter 48, Joining the Hidden Cloud Village. Plan goes well. Reikage office. Reikage-sama. That's the situation, so I brought him back. With proper nurturing, a genius like him will definitely be a future asset to the village, Samui said calmly, her cool, mature voice revealing her rationality. On the sofa, the 4th Reikage, AI, sat with his legs crossed, showing interest as he looked at the boy behind Samui. The boy looked to be only 7 or 8 years old, his body still somewhat thin, seemingly lacking strength. But according to Samui, to be able to easily toy with 3 ferocious beasts using swordsmanship at such a young age meant his strength was definitely not ordinary, at least at the genin level. If he were properly nurtured, there's a very high probability that Hidden Cloud Village would gain another elite jonin in the future. "Kid, what's your name?" asked the 4th Reikage AI. Rinso looked over and calmly replied, "Lin Sheng's pseudonym." "Where are your parents?" AI pressed further. "They were killed by bandits. After that, I lived alone in the forest." As he spoke, Rinso touched a few scars on his face, which looked like they were left by wild beasts, but were actually self-inflicted to hide his true appearance, and showed a reminiscing expression. Hearing this, AI's expression brightened. To have honed swordsmanship capable of fighting wild beasts without any instruction, this child was a genius. He gave Samui an appreciative look, as if praising, "You did well." Then, he looked at Rinso again and asked, "Lin Sheng's pseudonym. Are you willing to join Hidden Cloud Village? Here, I can give you the best training. Are you willing?" Rinso looked at AI, his expression becoming extremely serious, and asked, "Are there free meals then? I don't want to hunt animals myself anymore." "Food? Ha ha ha." AI burst into laughter. "Yes, you can have as much free food as you want." Rinso immediately showed joy. "Then I'm willing to join Hidden Cloud Village." Seeing Rinso's simplicity, AI liked him even more and said with a smile, "Good. I'll arrange for someone to take you to register your identity in a bit. Oh, by the way, looking at your age, Lin Sheng's pseudonym, you should be 7, right? How about I arrange for you to enroll in the 2nd year of the Ninja Academy?" AI said. Rinso shook his head and innocently asked, "No, I should be 4 now, right? In that case, can I still attend that Ninja Academy?" "What?" AI suddenly stood up, his face full of surprise. He quickly walked to Rinso's side, gripped Rinso's wrist, and applied slight pressure. A few seconds later, he released Rinso's wrist, his eyes filled with pleasant surprise. The bone development is indeed only that of a 4-year-old. There's still some distance until he's 5. A genius who can sword fight 3 ferocious beasts at 7 years old, and a genius who can sword fight 3 ferocious beasts at 4 years old are completely different concepts. The former, even if considered a genius, would most likely only become an elite jonin in the future. It might be a small surprise to him, but that's all. The latter, however, would be a core training target in any ninja village in the ninja world, a seedling with the absolute potential to reach Kaga-level expert in the future. And a Kaga-level expert is an existence capable of changing the tide of battle and altering the status of a ninja village. Perhaps such a Kaga-level expert is the key for them to surpass Konoha. Therefore, after confirming that Rinso was only 4 years old, AI immediately burst in a loud laughter, disregarding the setting. "Ha ha. Samui, you did well. You've brought a future pillar to Hidden Cloud Village. Aren't you making slow progress in your strength? Killer Bee happens to have time recently. I'll let him teach you. Oh, and bring Lin Sheng's pseudonym." AI emphasized. Hidden Cloud Village. In a fully furnished apartment of over 100 square meters, Rinso lay on the bed, looking at the ceiling, a slight smile involuntarily playing on his lips. He hadn't expected to infiltrate Hidden Cloud Village so easily. He had deliberately caused a disturbance on the path where Hidden Cloud Village ninja escorted merchant caravans, initially just wanting to attract some attention, to make some Hidden Cloud Village ninja notice him. After that, he would repeatedly do this, making many Kumovikure ninja aware of him, and as long as there was one smart person among them who thought of recruiting him, his plan could proceed to the second step. For example, after joining Hidden Cloud Village, he would challenge children of the same age group, spreading his reputation as a genius until it reached the fourth Reikage ears. However, he didn't expect that all his subsequent ideas would be unnecessary. The first time he revealed himself, he immediately hooked Samui, this big fish. This future Hidden Cloud Village strategist, a cool-faced older sister whose figure was no less than Tsunade's. Furthermore, he was directly brought before the fourth Reikage, AI, saving him a lot of trouble. He even directly got the opportunity to be taught swordsmanship by Killer Bee. Although Rinso felt that Killer Bee couldn't teach him much, being able to interact with Killer Bee meant having connections with the core of Hidden Cloud Village, which would lead to frequent encounters with the fourth Reikage, AI, in the future, wouldn't it? As long as he could make contact, it would only be a matter of time before the lightning release chakra mode drop was a sure thing. At that time, his own nintaijutsu development would also make great progress. Reikage's office. Only the fourth Reikage, AI, and Samui were present. Reikage-sama, should we investigate whether his background is true? To prevent him from being a spy sent by another ninja village. Samui suggested with a calm expression. Even though Rinso was brought back by her, she was not careless in this regard. The fourth Reikage, AI, was now sitting at his desk, handling documents, and said without looking up, "No need." Samui asked why. The fourth Reikage, AI, looked up and laughed heartily. "Haha, it's simple, isn't it? Would you send a child with Kaga-level potential to be a spy?" Samui immediately shook her head. A Kaga-level expert is an existence capable of changing the ninja world's landscape. No ninja village would be foolish enough to send such a genius as a spy. Normally, they wouldn't even have enough time to hide them, wishing they could keep them hidden until the genius had fully matured. That's right, a genius like Lin Sheng's pseudonym doesn't need to be sent as a spy. Especially since, even if he were a spy, he's only a 4-year-old child. I am confident I can make him abandon his original ninja village and fall in love with Hidden Cloud Village. Haha. The fourth Reikage, AI, laughed heartily, full of confidence. I understand, Reikage-sama. Samui nodded, showing an expression of admiration. If you have nothing else, you can leave. Killer Bee is at. Go find him. The fourth Reikage, AI, continued to process documents, speaking. All right, I'll take my leave then. Samui responded, turning to leave. After turning around, a slight smile played on her lips. Clearly, she was not unaware of what AI was implying. She merely wanted AI to say it himself. By feigning misunderstanding, she made AI voice the same thoughts as her, to avoid being implicated if anything went wrong in the future. It was a bit of her cleverness. Chapter 49 Shursui is injured, flying Thunder God Kanai. Hidden Cloud Village. Independent residence. Rinso sat by the bed, seriously suspecting he might have overtrained his ninjutsu, using multiple shadow clones at high intensity for too long. So much so that his mind was not quite sharp now. Just a short while ago, after enjoying the success of his infiltration, Rinso planned to start copying and replicating this model to other ninja villages. Therefore, he decided to split a shadow clone, leaving the shadow clone here, so that if anything happened, it would dissipate directly, its memories would return, and he could immediately use Flying Thunder God to come back. Just like in Konoha Village, he left one shadow clone. After resolving his worries, he could set off for his next destination, Iwagakure. However, perhaps because the plan was complete and his tense nerves relaxed, Rinso suddenly discovered something astonishing. It seemed he had used the shadow clone for the wrong purpose. The essence of him splitting a shadow clone was, one goes on the road, one stays behind. So why didn't he stay behind himself and let the shadow clone travel? After all, a shadow clone could also use ninjutsu and leave a Flying Thunder God mark. What have I done? Rinso was speechless at himself. One must know, it took him more than 5 days to get from Konoha to Hidden Cloud Village. During this time, if he had let the shadow clone travel and he himself stayed in Konoha, he could have continued interacting with Hinata and the others, and perhaps even dropped some items. What huge loss! Alas, regretting it is useless now. Rinso sighed, knowing it was no use, and could only look forward. He formed hand signs, and a shadow clone appeared beside him. Without speaking, the shadow clone and Rinso exchanged glances, then directly used the Flying Thunder God technique to teleport to the Flying Thunder God mark closest to Iwagakure. At the same time, a wave of memories suddenly entered Rinso's mind. Realizing that a certain shadow clone must have dissipated, Rinso immediately began to browse the memories. Through the memories, Rinso understood. This dissipated shadow clone was the one he left in Konoha. The reason the shadow clone dissipated was not because it was attacked, but because it actively dispersed. Its purpose was simply to deliver information to him. Willing to dissipate just to deliver the message, it was evident that it was no ordinary matter. By browsing the memories, Rinso confirmed that his conjecture was correct. The message the shadow clone was willing to dissipate to deliver was, Uchiha Shursui injured. The reason was that Shursui, while protecting the clan head in an ambush, encountered an assassin with a 3-tomo Sharingan. To protect the clan head, he was accidentally injured. Upon learning this news, Rinso narrowed his eyes slightly. Without hesitation, he directly circulated his chakra, locked onto the Flying Thunder God mark in Konoha, and activated it. Konoha Village, Uchiha Clan Compound. Shursui's residence, bathroom. Rinso instantly appeared, understanding that the shadow clone had used the excuse of going to the restroom to come to the bathroom and leave a Flying Thunder God mark before dissipating. He did not leave immediately. Instead, he instantly flashed back home, changed his clothes to match those of the shadow clone, and then returned to the bathroom. Stepping out of the bathroom, Rinso came to the main room. In the main room, Shursui lay on his bed, surrounded by familiar faces. Uchiha Itachi and his younger brother Sasuke, Kakashi and Might Guy, Tintin, and others. Everyone familiar from the training ground had come to visit Shursui. After all, Shursui had often taught them in the past, and they were, to some extent, friends. Rinso, you're back, Shursui said. Rinso nodded, looking at Shursui. Although injured, Shursui's injuries were actually not severe. He had merely taken a kunai head-on while protecting the clan head, and his condition had significantly improved after the battle. The reason he was still lying at home was actually the Uchiha clan's excessive protection. To ensure Shursui didn't suffer even the slightest problem, they forced him to rest well and had the best Uchiha medical ninja treat him. In response, Shursui had no choice but to comply, promising to rest for half a day. Thus, everyone from the training ground who heard the news came to visit Shursui. I'm fine, but thank you all for taking the time to visit me. Shursui still showed a look of not wanting to trouble others. It's only right, Shursui, you must heal well, Might Guy said, showing his teeth concerned. More than that, I'm curious who could have injured you. Was it that 3-tomo Uchiha? That shouldn't be possible. Kakashi asked a question everyone present wanted to ask but hadn't. Immediately, everyone present stopped making noise, awaiting Shursui's answer. To this, Shursui showed an apologetic smile. Sorry, I don't want to involve you. It might put you in danger. Hearing this, everyone sighed. Kakashi wanted to retort, but didn't know what to say. Yes, for Shursui, a Kaga-level expert, to be injured while protecting a Jonin-level clan head, his opponent must also be a Kaga-level expert. And none of them were qualified to get involved to that extent. However, after saying this, Shursui looked at Rinso. Itachi, who had been observing Shursui, saw this, realized something, and said, Shursui, do you have something to discuss with Rinso? Shursui nodded, then glanced at everyone, saying nothing. I have something to do, so I won't disturb you, Shursui. Kakashi was very perceptive, spoke up proactively, and pulled Might Guy along. Might Guy, for once, had his intelligent brain online, and also said, all right, I also have something to do, I won't disturb you either. The children like Tintin, clearly few of them understood Shursui's meaning. Shikamaru, seeing this, directly took the lead and announced, Shursu-san, we still have training, so we won't disturb you. Training? Training what? Naruto foolishly tried to retort. Fortunately, Sakura was nearby, immediately covered Naruto's mouth with her hand, and dragged Naruto out. Idiot, don't talk nonsense, Sakura said angrily. Naruto showed an innocent expression, but I'm telling the truth. Sakura was even angrier, and with her other hand, she directly grabbed Naruto's ear and pulled him outside. Soon, only Uchiha Itachi and Rinso remained by Shursui's bed in the room. Itachi showed no intention of leaving, waiting for Shursui to speak. However, Shursui just looked at him and slowly shook his head. Itachi, you go out too. Itachi's pupils contracted. He didn't expect that Shursui was unwilling to talk to him. If he didn't want to talk to him, fine, but why was he willing to talk to Rinso? Itachi silently stood up, without a single word of rebuttal, and left the room. He understood, no matter what he thought. To Shursui, Rinso was more reliable, more worthy of confiding in him. After stepping out, Itachi looked back at Rinso, then closed the room door. Rinso inexplicably shivered. He always felt that Itachi's gaze was especially similar to the looks the other two girls gave him when he was with Tenten, Ino, or Hinata. How strange. Did he somehow steal Itachi's girlfriend? Feeling bewildered by this, Rinso didn't think much of it and approached Shirsue's bedside. He directly pulled out a kunai from a ninja tool pouch hanging on his body. Shirsue took it, asking with a confused expression, "This is?" Rinso replied, "Flying Thunder God kunai." Chapter 50. Waiting for the rabbit to run into the tree stump, Obito arrives at the Ino family's residence. Flying Thunder God? The S-rank forbidden jutsu master by the 4th Hokage. Shirsue exclaimed in surprise. Rinso nodded in acknowledgement. "Yes, I only just mastered it." The masked man won't give up. He might even become more frantic to stir up conflict between Konoha and the Uchiha, and he'll likely carry out assassinations for a long time. So take this Flying Thunder God kunai. If you encounter that masked man, just channel chakra into it. I'll sense it and come over immediately. Shirsue's shocked expression slowly receded. He had many questions in his heart, but politely refrained from asking them. He simply accepted the Flying Thunder God kunai solemnly, a smile appearing on his face. "Thank you." Shirsue didn't think much of it. In his view, Rinso telling him to activate the Flying Thunder God kunai after encountering the masked man was so that Rinso could take away the assassinated clan head upon arrival, preventing him from getting in Rinso's way. "By the way, Shirsue-san, what did you want to talk about when you asked me to stay?" "I originally wanted to ask you, Rinso, how I can fight without these worries." As he spoke, Shirsue picked up the Flying Thunder God kunai and said with a smile, "Turns out I don't need to say anything. You've already resolved this concern for me. When I activate the kunai, you can take the clan head away after you arrive, and I'll be able to fight the masked man with peace of mind." Hearing that Shirsue thought he gave him the Flying Thunder God kunai for that purpose, Rinso merely smiled and didn't refute him. Upon arrival, his only purpose would be to rescue the clan head. What was all his hard work, all his efforts to improve his strength for? He gave Shirsue the Flying Thunder God kunai so that he could personally fight Obito when the time came. All his efforts and improvements over this long period, weren't they meant for a moment like this? Even without using his Mangekyo Sharingan, with the practical combat ability of the Flying Thunder God technique, he wouldn't fear Obito. However, Rinso wouldn't tell Shirsue these thoughts, lest Shirsue think he was overestimating himself. "If there's nothing else, then I'll be leaving, Shirsue-san," Rinso said, bidding farewell. Shirsue didn't stop him, smiling and nodding as he watched Rinso leave. It must be said, Rinso was a very reliable person. Even if his strength wasn't that great, his clever mind always put people at ease. This was also why he didn't even try to keep Itachi, but specifically wanted to talk with Rinso. As he walked out of the room, Rinso immediately saw everyone waiting outside the door who hadn't left. Seeing him come out, they slowly began to move. Everyone's faces held some curiosity, but since Rinso didn't proactively speak when he came out, they wouldn't ask. Even the most dull Naruto, having been lectured by Sakura, had become much sharper. Everyone left together, with Uchiha Itachi and Sasuke as hosts, seeing them off. Because of Shirsue's injury, everyone lost the desire to train, so they were about to part ways. However, before leaving, Rinso called out to Tenten, Ino, Hinata, and Naruto. "Take these." Under the four's puzzled gazes, Rinso pulled out 4 kunai from his ninja tool pouch, giving one to each person. "These 4 kunai are for you. Channel chakra into them when you encounter danger." Rinso didn't explain anything, simply giving this instruction. It wasn't that he was hiding the Flying Thunder God technique, but that Tenten and the other 3, unlike Shirsue, didn't understand the Flying Thunder God technique. If he explained it, he'd have to spend a long time doing so. As for why he only gave them to these 4 people, Rinso was not deceiving himself in the slightest. It was precisely because these 4 were among the most important people in the entire group. The 3 girls, of course, went without saying. They always thought of him for various benefits. Naruto even truly regarded him as an elder brother, placing him in the most important position in his heart. As for the others, Shikamaru, Choji, Niji, Rock Lee, and so on, it wasn't that their relationship wasn't good, but there was naturally some difference in closeness. And as for Kakashi and Might Guy, their strength meant they basically wouldn't encounter any danger. If truly pushed, Kakashi could reveal Kimui, and Might Guy could open the 8 gates. No one could take them down in a short while. The cost of his Flying Thunder God kunai aside, the crafting time was also an issue. So, he could only give them to 4 people for now. Of course, he still had a few in his ninja tool pouch, but those were reserved for his parents, Senjimiho, and for combat. Rinso-kun, thank you. Tenten accepted the kunai, a blush appearing on her cheeks. In her opinion, the kunai Rinso gave her was simply a gift. I'll cherish it well. Hinata tucked the kunai into her chest, looking very precious, seemingly thinking the same as Tenten, mostly treating it as a gift. He gave them to 4 people. Ino thought to herself, her voice solemn in her mind. She knew very well that the 4 people remaining there were probably the 4 people Rinso cared about most in the entire group. She was very happy to be among them. She didn't mind Naruto also being one of the 4, but Tintin and Hinata, well, even though they were good sisters, if it concerned Rinso, she wouldn't give in. Ino looked up, suppressing some displeasure in her heart, and forced out a sweet smile. I like it very much, thank you. The material looks really good. It would be very convenient for chopping vegetables, Naruto muttered to himself, examining the kunai with a peculiar train of thought. At this, Rinso, who had been smiling at the 3 girls, immediately darkened his face. Bang! Rinso directly gave Naruto a loud flick on the forehead and said sternly, "The kunai I gave you can genuinely save your lives. When you encounter danger, you must channel chakra into them." At Rinso's words, Naruto immediately puffed out his chest and raised his head, seriously accepting the lesson. "Yes, big brother Rinso, I got it." Seeing this, Rinso chuckled, "Too lazy to scold you." Without saying more, after instructing Tintin and the other 3 to activate the kunai in times of danger, Rinso left. Afterward, he went to the tailor shop. After handing a kunai to Senjimiho, he walked towards the fruit store, where he gave out 2 more kunai. His parents were not ninja, but they both had some chakra, enough at least to activate the kunai, which reassured Rinso considerably. By the time he finished these tasks, it was already dusk. All the various tasks that needed to be done were handled by shadow clones. So Rinso himself simply returned home, awaiting the battle that was very likely to come that night. This time, he would wait for the rabbit by the stump. Even if he couldn't capture Obito, he would make sure Obito learned a harsh lesson and wouldn't dare to cause trouble in Konoha again. Time flew by. The sun had completely hidden itself, and the moon came to take its place. Under the bright moonlight, warm lights appeared in every household in Konoha. At this moment, at Ino Yamanaka's house, Ino was eating dinner with her mother, and seeing her father's usual seat empty, she pouted unhappily. Ino's mother, seeing this, gently stroked Ino's head. "Ino, your father is also not staying at home for your and my safety. Once that assassin is caught, your father will come back." "Oh," Ino replied indifferently. Seeing Ino still in a bad mood, Ino's mother looked at the kunai, placed beside Ino's rice bowl, and said with a smile, "Who gave you this kunai, Ino? Was it Mariki Lin Sheng, the one you always talk about?" Mentioning Mariki Lin Sheng, Ino smiled. "Yes, Rinso said that if I encounter danger, I can channel chakra into it." "Is that so?" Seeing her daughter finally smile, Ino's mother nodded with a smile. At this very moment, at Ino's house, in the dark first floor, the air twisted for a moment, and the black-robed, masked man slowly appeared. Looking up, his gaze seemingly passing through the ceiling to see Ino and her mother eating in the second-floor dining room.